Good evening and welcome to this September 6th, 2022 meeting of the Manhattan City Commission. This is a legislative session and we haven't had a full house for a while. Glad you're here. Thank you. Would you join me, please? We need to, I'll call this meeting to order and we need to have a roll call. So, City Clerk, would you call the roll? Or is Jared, who's doing it?
Mayor Morse.
Present.
Commissioner Hassel.
Here.
Commissioner Reddy.
Present.
Commissioner Butler.
Present.
Commissioner Motta.
Here.
Mayor, we have 5 members present. The quorum of 3 has been met.
Thank you. All right, appreciate that. And if you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. The first item on the agenda are 3 proclamations. So if, I have a sticky note here. Lori Bishop, Sue Simmons, Ronnie Grice, and Matt Walters would join me at the microphone here. Okay. The first proclamation this evening is the 9/11 Day of Remembrance. And thank you, Lori Bishop from the Volunteer Center, for bringing this to us. So I'll read the proclamation, and there are 2 copies, okay, as you requested. Whereas 21 years ago, our country lost the lives of 2,977 innocent men, women, and children in the devastating terror attacks on September 11th, 2001. And whereas we commend the firefighters, police, emergency medical service, military personnel, and other first responders who courageously risk their lives to rescue those in need, as well as the ordinary citizens and volunteers who selflessly gave their lives to aid their friends and co-workers who were injured or trapped in the Twin Towers and Pentagon. And whereas the United States is unified in our purpose to prevent further tragedies like those experienced on September 11th, 2001, and it is right to honor the men and women of our armed services who have fought tirelessly to keep us safe from further attacks on U.S. soil. And whereas participating in this Day of Remembrance activities on September 11th is a positive and respectful way to remember the lives lost by placing 2,977 dedicated personalized flags in the surrounding park area around us for the day, paying tribute to those who rose in service and honor those who continue to serve our country today, including active duty and reserve, soldiers and their families, veterans, and first responders. Now, therefore, I, Linda Morse, Mayor of the City of Manhattan, on behalf of the citizens of Manhattan, do hereby proclaim September 11th, 2022 as 9/11 Day of Remembrance in the City of Manhattan and encourage all citizens to honor the lives of those lost and those who continue to serve through participation in the day's activities and ceremony and on this Day of Remembrance. Lori Bishop, if you'd like to.
Thank you, Mayor. We are really excited to be able to host this year. As we've dived deeper into what we're doing, it became more to the forefront for us working on this. We want to invite the public to come and help us place these flags, 2,977 flags. Each flag has the name, the age, and if they died in the Pentagon, the World Trade Center, or one of the flights. And I think for me, one of the touching one was a father told the story of his son who was on Flight 175. The son called his father and said, I think we're going to crash. And the son replied to his dad, he says, "Don't worry, Dad, it will be quick." And so it just brings to heart what happened that day. And so we hope you join us at the City Park from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock. We'll be placing each one of those flags. At 5 o'clock, our CPD will be hosting a free barbecue, hamburgers and hot dogs. And then beginning at 5:30, we'll have special remarks from Governor Kelly, Attorney General Derek Schmidt, and Colonel Tang, and Lieutenant Colonel retired Glidewell from Fort Riley. So it's going to be an awesome event. I hope you all come, and thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you all for coming. That's such an important recognition that we can't have occur again. We have to learn from that. The next proclamation is Constitution Week. Would Melanie Horton? Hi, Melanie. How are you? Yeah, glad to see you. It's been a while. Yeah, hi. Whereas September 17th marks the 235th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention. And whereas it is fitting and proper to officially recognize this magnificent document and the anniversary of its creation. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Linda Morse, Mayor of the City of Manhattan, do hereby proclaim September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week in Manhattan and ask our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the framers of the Constitution had in 1787 and urge all citizens to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities which that privilege involves. Thank you. Wonderful. You want here? You're welcome to. We invite you to say something, whatever you'd like.
The Polly Ogden chapter of the Daughters of the American Revolution thank the city, thank the mayor for issuing this proclamation to honor our beloved Constitution and all that it stands for. And in this election year, it guarantees our right to vote, and I encourage everyone to get out there and vote. Thank you.
The next proclamation is Recovery Month, and Robin Cole is here with several Pawnee mental health folks. And I don't have your names, so Robin, would you give the names? Well,
Do you want me to do it
sure.
now, or
No, it'd be great.
Okay.
Because
Okay,
I would if I had it.
that's fine. Tonight with me, I have Anna Wells. She's a therapist in our Recovery Services Program. Stan Wilson, who's a member of our governing board, and Ann Brown, who is the chairman of our governing board.
Thank you for coming. I think the Anns have it. Okay, all right. The proclamation. Whereas behavioral health is an essential part of health and overall wellness, and prevention works, treatment is effective, and people can and do recover from substance abuse and mental disorders. And whereas it is critical to educate our policymakers, friends, and family members, healthcare providers, and businesses that substance abuse and mental disorders are treatable, and that people should seek assistance for these conditions with the same urgency as they would any other health condition. And whereas almost 21 million Americans have at least one addiction, yet only 10% of them receive treatment, and drug overdose deaths have more than tripled since 1990. Whereas social support is crucial, and social isolation is a risk factor for relapse, and physical distancing measures and quarantine may be especially difficult for people in recovery because they limit access to meetings of peer support groups and other sources of social connection. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, and Pawnee Mental Health Services observe Recovery Month to raise awareness and understanding of recovery from substance use and mental disorders. Now, therefore, I, Linda Morse, Mayor of the City of Manhattan, do hereby declare September 2022 as Recovery Month. in Manhattan and call upon citizens, government agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recognize the importance of recovery and to commit our community to increasing awareness and understanding of substance use and mental disorders and the need for appropriate and accessible services for all people.
I actually have another copy of it. You're good. So, thank you. I thought it would be appropriate just to make a few remarks about Manhattan and Riley County. Last year, Pawnee served over 2,500 citizens of Manhattan or Riley County who had mental health disorders or substance abuse disorders. About 600 of those 2,500 had specific substance use disorder diagnoses. But you know, a lot of times those folks who have substance use disorders also have mental illnesses, and we call those co-occurring disorders. About 300 of that 2,500 people were individuals who were served through the Riley County and Pawnee Mental Health partnership, which is known as the Co-Responder Program. And that's where a therapist from Pawnee Mental Health goes into the community with a member of law enforcement to respond to issues that come up in the community that might be better handled by a mental health professional rather than a police officer. You know, Pawnee Mental Health is just one of many organizations and individuals in this community who work with people who have substance use disorders or mental illnesses. And so when you think about that 2,500 number, that's just Pawnee Mental Health. That's not counting other organizations or other private practitioners who are working with individuals who have substance use disorders or mental health issues. We're all necessary and important to improving the overall mental health and wellness of our communities. So I want to just say thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioners, for drawing attention to the fact that September is Recovery Month. So thank you. I'm going to hide this cane.
The next item on the agenda is public comments. And those are comments from the public to the commission, which is not related to an agenda item. As a general practice, the City Commission will not discuss or debate these items, nor will the commission make decisions on items presented during this time. Individuals should address all comments and questions to the commission. Each person will be limited to one speaking opportunity of 5 minutes. We have one person who signed up to speak at the public general comment period, and that is Katie Jordan. Katie, are you here to speak about? General? Okay. General. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie Jordan, 2415 Timberlane Drive, Manhattan, Kansas. I'm the former chair of the FHHRP, or the Flint Hills Human Rights Project, and I just wanted to say good evening. I'm here tonight on what marks the 6-year anniversary of your vote to unanimously pass the non-discrimination ordinance that included protections for both sexual orientation and gender identity. I want to personally thank the current commissioners, Usha Reddy, Wynn Butler, and Mayor Linda Morse, who were on the commission 6 years ago, along with the past members, Karen McCullough and Mike Dodson. That entire year plus process highlights how well the City Commission, the city officials, the clergy members, and the community members were able to work together to add value to the daily lives of our Manhattan, Kansas citizens. It is perhaps the proudest moment of my life. With the current national political climate as it is, where there are constant attacks on reversing and or ignoring the rights of LGBTQ plus citizens, I want you guys to know that these protections are not taken lightly by our community. There is no doubt in my mind that this ordinance has welcomed a more diverse population, enhanced our economic development, and has helped our LGBTQ plus citizens feel like respected members of this community. Over the years since passing of this ordinance, people have come up and asked me what it's like to be an LGBT citizen that lives in Kansas. And as I highlight how this ordinance makes me feel, I keep coming back to it. It makes me feel human and authentic. I just want to reflect, human and authentic are very wonderful feelings to have as a community member. So as we move out of the shadow of the pandemic and try to regain back all of our mental and emotional health, it's comforting to know that this city does have our back. Thanks again, Mayor Morse, Commissioners Reddy and Butler, for protecting our LGBTQ citizens by empowering our adults and investing and protecting in our youth, and granting us our humanity and authenticity.
Thank you, Katie. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to in a general comment? Please come forward. You didn't have to sign up ahead of time, but it was good. Please come forward, Marvin. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you all, Commissioners. Marvin Rodriguez, 3000 Creighton Terrace, Manhattan. I really think it was great what she said. I think all the adults that are here, that's great. But I'm here to kind of have opposition to the true colors.
You know,
motion.
that's an item on our agenda, so we don't allow discussion.
Well,
Yet.
I was told that I could.
You can during the budget discussion section.
During the budget discussions, okay, well.
That's right, so
Budget.
come back in 10 minutes.
If you want to, that was just your first sentence and you really want to talk about something else, proceed.
Well, I can always, talk
yeah.
about a lot of
I know
things,
you
but
can, yeah.
it's nice
But-
to be in front of the commission again,
Yeah.
but I'll come back.
But because
Okay.
that's on a budget item, yeah, thank you, Marvin. I appreciate you understanding. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak at the public comment section? Potholes? Anything? Okay, thank you. I'll close the public comment section, and we'll move on to commissioner comments. Commissioners, do you have thoughts?
Yes, I want to piggyback kind of what on Robin Cole said from Pawnee. It is also National Suicide Prevention Month, and we have the 988 hotline, which has just been implemented, I believe, in July. So just want you to be aware that oftentimes when anybody, regardless of whether a vulnerable situation or not, has access to the 988 number, and there are resources on the other end, and speak to a family member or a trusted individual if you are going through a crisis or feel like you need someone to speak to. So I just want to let you know this is a federal 988 number, and please feel free to use it. Don't feel shame. There's no stigma or anything like that, but everybody's valuable in our community. So I just wanted to say that, and also highlight President Linton's events over the past weekend. Thursday and Friday, I went to at least 4 events. He's officially now the 15th president of Kansas State University, and it was a pleasure to be one of the first communities to be part of his larger community discussions throughout the state of Kansas. So welcome, President Linton, and we look forward to working with you and the university and our region to move forward as a whole group. And I also wanted to say K-State was recognized as one of the leaders in the LGBTQ community nationally as well. Thank you.
I think the companies that come here, certainly NBAF and Scorpion, have viewed that as a positive for our community. On behalf of the citizens of Manhattan and as mayor, I attended the inauguration of K-State's 15th president, Richard S. Linton, on Saturday at McCain Auditorium. It was a celebratory occasion with Governor Laura Kelly and many national and state elected officials, the Board of Regents, alumni, faculty, students, and friends of K-State. It was a grand affair. The president held the first community forum prior to the inauguration at the Manhattan Convention Center, and many residents spoke to the strengths of K-State, and a few spoke to what K-State ought to do in the future. I spoke briefly to the benefits of collaboration and partnerships between the city and K-State. President Linton will be hosting similar forums around Kansas. It was a great day to celebrate both K-State and Manhattan. I just wanted to let you know that we were represented there as a whole. Are there other commissioner comments? No, seeing none? No, he wasn't engaging us. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And there are agendas at the front door. The items on the consent agenda are those of a routine and housekeeping nature, or those items which have previously been reviewed by the City Commission. A commissioner may request an item be moved for separate discussion and consideration immediately following the consent agenda or at a different point on the agenda if desired by the City Commission. Does the commission have any questions or comments on any of the consent agenda items? Seeing none. We will now, yes?
I might just bring to everyone's
good.
attention that we did have a revised agenda that went out today.
Okay.
So we added item G3 to approve a resolution authorizing the sale of city real estate and the mayor and city clerk to execute the necessary documents for the land transfer. This is regarding the Art and Light Museum tract that we hadn't previously approved a resolution for. We reapproved every other aspect of it, including a memorandum of agreement would envision this transfer.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, anyone would have the opportunity we have the opportunity for public comment on the consent agenda at this point. If you've had the opportunity to review that, if you have comment, please come forward. Seeing no one, the public comment period on the consent agenda is now closed. Is there a motion, is there discussion or a motion from the commission?
Mayor, I move we accept the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Brenda, City Clerk, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Hansel,
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay. Next, we will have the, we've finished the whole thing. It's page after page here. We are rapidly advancing to the public hearing section. And the first item on the agenda this evening is to consider the 2023 budget and revenue neutral rate and amend the 2022 city budget. Rena Neal, the Director of Finance, is going to make a presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight we will have 3 public hearings regarding the budget for the City of Manhattan. The first public hearing will be regarding the revenue neutral rate, and the second public hearing will be regarding the 2023 proposed city budget, and then we will have a public hearing regarding amendments to the 2022 city's budget. Before I begin the presentation, I just want to let you all know that we will be providing an overview of the revenue neutral rate information as well as the 2023 budget information into one presentation. And then I will then turn it over to the mayor to open it up for the public hearing and comments during the public hearing for the revenue neutral rate should be focused on the revenue neutral rate. Then there will be a vote by the city commission to the resolution as to whether you want to exceed the revenue neutral rate, and that vote must be by roll call. Then additional information regarding this particular budget item. The mill levy can't increase from the published rate, but it can be reduced. So once that revenue neutral rate public hearing process is closed, then we will open up for the public hearing for the 2023 proposed city budget. And then that comment at the bottom, the budget can't increase from published amount, but it can decrease. Our 2023 assessed valuation is $633.9 million. It's a 5.9% increase over the 2022 tax base of $598.7 million. Of that 5.9%, 5.6 is related to outside services, which is the library employee benefit fund, and the Raleigh County Police Department, and then city services is 0.295%. There is an increase to property taxes of $1.8 million. 380 is from improvements of growth, and then 1.45 is related to market growth. Of that 1.8, 1.7 is from outside services, and then 92,000 for city services. The mill levy for 2023 is proposed to be 52.143 mills, which is the mill levy that was submitted in 2022. This slide has been provided in previous city commission meetings this year, but this just lists out the city-related mill levy. Again, the mill levy for 2023 is 52.143 mills, and then compared to 2022, it's the same for a 0 mill increase. There are increases to some of the funds, but overall 0 mill increase. This just provides a 5-year budget perspective of our mill levy and how the revenue neutral rate came on in 2022, and then the increase to our property taxes to capture that growth of $1.8 million. There are 17.244 mills dedicated to city services. 1 mill for 2023 is estimated at $633,971. Total property taxes dedicated to city operations and debt, $10,931,776. City operations equals 12% of total property taxes collected for the city, RCPD, and library, compared to the overall, including the state, county, and the school district. Sorry. This slide just provides for a residential property with a valuation increase of 5.9% at $200,000 valued property, the increase to the property taxes. And so due to the mill levy change, which is reduced because of not only the city's information, but also the school district, the county, and the state, that is a reduction of $23, and then the increase from the market value is $212, so the net increase to property taxes on a $200,000 residence with the valuation increase is $189. For a commercial property at $500,000, based on the 5.9% valuation increase, that increase is estimated at $1,029. This slide provides the budget for 2022 compared to the budget proposed for 2023, and the budget for 2022 was at 163.5, and then for 2023 is proposed at 189.2. In previous meetings, we discussed the reason for the increase. We have the 2 new internal service funds, as well as the cost of living and proposed step, as well as increases to our fuel and gas, as well as, again, our internal service funds for our fleet, as well as our IT department. And we also will be bringing on some of the Big 5 projects in the bond and interest fund, as well as capturing our increase to our beginning cash balances. In June, at the end of June, we presented about outside agency requests, And so this is just that slide from back in June, and those particular requests compared to 2022, 21, and 20, as well as their actuals that were actually distributed. We provided CIP information a couple of sessions ago, work sessions ago, and so this is just the 2023 CIP portion of that information. General fund is at 1.89, currently unfunded, and then special revenue funds, 2.79, water, 4.5, wastewater, 2.4, and stormwater, 2.65, and then we have other sources at 6 million for a total of 20.2. We would need cash of 3.9 to fund that balance, and then the rest would be covered by debt of 16.3. So the proposed 2023 city budget includes the following highlights: increase of 5.9% to the city's tax base in 2022 for 2023 property taxes, increase of 92,000 or 5% in property taxes levied to support the 2023 city budget. The remaining 95% is related to the RCPD and library. And then recommend a 5.1 cost of living and between a 2.5 to 4% step plan. And then the city will continue to monitor the various revenue streams and make any necessary changes. Further consideration, you can reduce but can't increase from published amount of $189,271,669. We're looking for direction on any changes. We have another meeting on September 20th, which is the second reading of the 2023 budget ordinance and the establishment of the tax rates. And then in October, on October 1st, we'll certify the tax rate in the 2023 budget to the county clerks. As I mentioned earlier, the recommended actions for tonight: conduct a public hearing on the revenue neutral rate, close the public hearing on the revenue neutral rate. There will be a roll call vote on that resolution. And then after that, we will open up for a public hearing on the proposed 2023 city budget, and then close that public hearing. And then I will go into the 2022 city budget amendments, and then, if desired, provide direction to the city manager regarding any changes to the budget so we can prepare for the second reading. That's all.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Are there questions from the commission?
Ron, I guess you're probably the one to answer that. Of that 1.89 million for the city general fund CIP, you said unfunded, which means it's kind of a wish list based on how much money we have. Is it and then are you going to kind of wait till June to decide how things are kind of going, or just after you get a little bit of a trend, pick out a few of the most important things? You have what's your semi-strategy?
Sure. So as Marina indicated, that it is unfunded. It's anticipated that there may be funding available, but it would be revenue that we've received that's above and beyond our cash balance goal. So surplus revenue, which we are certainly, as of now, enjoying a little surplus revenue on sales tax. If that holds through the end of the year, it'll probably be a beginning of fourth quarter type of decision, I would guess. So probably around October before we would start to feel comfortable.
October of next year?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, I just have a procedural question. I've got 3 changes I want to propose to the 2023 budget. I'd assume I'd make those after the closure of the public hearing of the 2023 budget, not the revenue neutral rate vote.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be appropriate, Commissioner. We
Okay.
would like the revenue neutral rate discussion to be relative to the rate established as opposed to elements of the budget itself, which would just be repetitory after the general budget public hearing.
Right, but then we would open a public hearing for the 23 budget, and then after that hearing was closed, then I would go ahead and make the motions at that time.
That'd be appropriate to do as well. We wouldn't have to wait until after the amended budget. We can do that discussion later, if that's the desire of the commission. It's kind of how you want to handle things, but that's certainly a method that could be utilized, certainly.
Other commissioner thoughts? Okay. We should open. Public hearing, quasi-judicial, but not. So we've introduced it, we've had a presentation, the questions of the staff. I will now open the public hearing. Members of the public that signed up in person on the list at the podium before the meeting will go first, and then other meetings of the public in the audience may stand and be recognized to come forward. If you haven't already signed up to speak, please be sure to sign in on the list located at the podium. Please state your name and residential address and/or organization you are representing for the record and for those listening or watching this evening. Each speaker has 5 minutes, can speak only once, and must stop speaking when the timer sounds. Neither the commissioners nor city staff will answer questions or debate on this issue. We will take your comments under advisement. And commissioners should hold their questions for clarification by any speaker until the end of the comments. And the speaker would have an additional 2 minutes if.
Mayor, I just wanted to clarify that the public understand, and also for my own clarification, that the first public hearing tonight is on the revenue neutral hearing, and then after that is closed, it will be about the budget. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. So is there public comment for the public? I'll open the public hearing. Is there public comment on the revenue neutral? Property owners all received a notice in the mail of the collective information about the revenue neutral rate. Good luck making heads or tails of it, right? Anyway, I just kind of tossed it over there. Okay, so, anyone? No one signed up, John. So you're welcome to come forward.
Okay, thanks, and I'll sign up. John Ball, 3107 Hare Ridge, Manhattan, Kansas. Just wanted to give a quick comment, reference the neutral rate. The whole purpose of the neutral rate is to allow tax-paying citizens, or at least kind of stabilize the taxes that they've been paying. So as inflation drives up assessments, we can lower the mill levy, so the impact on the property owners here in Manhattan stays the same. I am kind of surprised that we were looking at bumping the budget up 26 million, just rough numbers, versus trying to decrease the mill levy so that we actually maintain a revenue neutral rate. I'm not sure why that's absolutely necessary, that we can't maintain a neutral rate, but it looks like that's not what we're planning to do. For the last 14 years, I've mentioned the ever-increasing rate that we do pay on property tax in Manhattan. Now, granted, there's a lot of reasons for that, one of which is we have a lot of non-taxed property in Manhattan, so that does shift the burden to the actual property owners. But I would ask you to take a good, hard look at maintaining the revenue neutral rate, which was the whole purpose of that being passed. I do appreciate the mail out, and it was interesting to try to sort through, so I appreciate that. But take a look, because it's not, rate increases aren't like 1 year. If you increase rates every year and then inflation on top of that, property tax goes up. That makes Manhattan a less attractive place for middle income and lower income people to settle. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you. We appreciate your comments.
And I'll write as fast as I can.
if someone else wishes to come forward, if you'd do that, and we can dovetail the time. Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing. And Commissioners, do you have further questions or discussion on the revenue neutral rate? Seeing none, is there a motion from the commission?
Mayor, I move we approve resolution number 090622-D, levying a property tax rate exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to exceed the revenue neutral rate. City Clerk Brenda, would you call the roll?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse,
Yes.
Commissioner Hattasol.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
I just have to find it. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is to consider amending the 2022 city budget.
I believe it's still
No?
the regular city budget.
I'm looking,
Public hearing on the budget,
we're under public hearing. Said,
number three.
oh, all right. Conduct a public hearing on the proposed 2023 city budget. So, then who's making that presentation?
There was a joint presentation.
There was a joint presentation. Does the city commission have any additional comments?
I just want to make one, of course, it's a flat mill levy, which is a starting point, but as, John Ball mentioned, it's still possible between now and the second reading to shave some things out of there. And I think there'll be a few recommendations on that, but it's not going to make a significant dent, but it can make some.
Other comments from the commission? Okay. We've had the public hearing. I need to open a new public hearing. Things aren't spelled out. That's all I can tell you. Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing on the 2023 budget that you've heard a presentation for. Anyone wishing to speak to that, would you please come forward?
Okay. Marvin Rodriguez again, and 3000 Creighton Terrace, Manhattan. As I look around here, one of the things I'll say is that I've probably seen more sunsets and more sunrises than anybody else in here. So I've got a lot of time and a lot of things behind me on how I feel what I do. I don't feel that general tax money should go to private industry or places that only focus on certain things, and when it involves children, on this part of this True Colors, that they'll be looking at gender dysphoria. I really think that should be a private concern, nothing to do with the city and nothing to do with taxes. That's not what taxes were for. They were for doing infrastructure, water, sewer, law enforcement, and et cetera. So that's where I stand. I ask the commission does not approve that and takes it out of the budget. And that's what I have to say, and I have a few moments to sign my name.
Would the next person please start this way, please? Well, actually, we have several people who signed up, and they usually are invited to come forward first. So Emily Zinger was the first to sign up. If you'd like to come forward, you can go ahead and begin speaking,
Okay.
and you can sign it when it.
Good afternoon. My name is Emily Zinger of 1555 Jefferson Ridge, Manhattan, Kansas. I'm here to speak about True Colors and the Special Alcohol Fund this evening. Again, I'm a resident of Manhattan as well as a registered nurse. I'm also married. My wife is in the military and is currently deployed. I've had the privilege of volunteering with True Colors Flint Hills. I came across True Colors while in search of volunteer work within the community, and I was drawn to True Colors' mission statement, which is focused on advocating, educating, and providing support services to the queer and trans youth in the area. This is a key population that's often underserved, yet so vital. In just my short time with True Colors, the lasting impression the organization has made on myself as well as the community is significant. The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration in 2019 released a report called the Behavioral Health Barometer of Kansas. This report showed that among youth aged 12 to 17 in Kansas, 10.4% or 25,000 used alcohol, and 10.2% used alcohol for the first time in their lives. While other organizations absolutely may provide services to prevent alcohol and substance abuse, True Colors targets their focus on the LGBTQ adolescents, who, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, are 90% more likely to use alcohol and drugs than their heterosexual counterparts. The fear, stress, or marginalization, lack of support, discrimination are just a few of the influential factors that place queer and trans youth at a much higher risk of alcohol abuse. Alcohol is most often used as a coping mechanism. It hinders feelings of stress, anxiety, depression. As a nurse, I've seen and treated many patients with alcohol and substance abuse, and this includes some LGBTQ adults. I've witnessed the detrimental impacts that alcohol has had on their health and their life. While I can't identify the source of their abuse, I believe having a place like True Colors available to them when they were younger would have benefited them. I'm also guilty of abusing alcohol as a means to cope while experiencing my own personal identity journey. I was a young adult in college when I began to question my sexual identity and who I was. I was the first to officially come out in my family. I often participated in underage drinking as a method to deal with my emotions and stress, and I found that drinking had destructive effects on my mental health. I'm one of the fortunate few who had the support of my parents, a group of close friends, to guide me through that complicated time in my life. And despite this, even now as an adult and a professional, I find it difficult to discuss my personal life with my family and coworkers due to disapproval and judgment. It was challenging enough as a young adult who was living independently and supporting myself to feel comfortable in my own skin, so it's difficult to imagine being a middle or high schooler, just trying to be their unique, genuine self, and feeling stuck in an unsupportive, uncomfortable, or maybe even unsafe environment. It's easy to understand why our queer or trans youth may look to alcohol as a means to cope and numb those feelings. And looking back, I would have given a lot to have had an organization like True Colors help me through that hardship. As I previously stated, the LGBTQ youth are more than twice as likely to abuse alcohol and other substances than their heterosexual peers. True Colors offers a plethora of services and resources, but one of their most favorable is their measures to prevent alcohol usage or abuse in the queer and trans youth. I've personally seen these actions through my interaction with the youth, volunteer staff, director, and board members. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has published a list of risk factors that place youth at high risk for substance abuse, and the CDC considers 3 of these factors to be family rejection of sexual orientation and gender identity, lack of school connectedness, and mental health issues, all of which can be applied to the queer and trans youth, again placing them at higher risk than other populations. Ultimately, the question is, what does True Colors do to prevent alcohol or substance use in this high-risk group? So True Colors provides a safe location and comfortable space for the LGBTQ youth and allies to gather and feel welcome. Youth are able to learn positive coping skills through access to mental health services. They're able to establish supportive, healthy relationships with screened and stable staff, as well as create connections with peers with similar interests. There's various youth-centered and youth-driven clubs to participate in. The youth can enjoy activities such as reading, art projects, playing board games, or just relaxing and watching television. True Colors also aligns their drop-in times with after-school hours, which coincides with times that youth are most likely to be attempting alcohol or substance abuse. True Colors preventative interventions covers all 3 of those CDC risk factors that place queer and trans youth at a high risk for alcohol or substance abuse. True Colors, without a doubt, meets the criteria under preventative services and deserves the recommended funding from the Special Alcohol Fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emily. The next person on the list is Clancy Livingston. If you'd come forward. You tried a while ago, and thank you.
I appreciate the consideration. My name is Clancy Livingston. I live at 1420 Reith Avenue, and I am a teacher at the high school. Just so we are clear, I am not here speaking for the high school tonight. I am here speaking on behalf of True Colors. In my capacity as a science teacher, I could be here to make statements about how gender-affirming care is both effective and lowers the risk of self-harm and suicide in queer and transgendered youth. I could say something to the effect to how gender and sexuality, according to modern science, behavioral biology, psychology, developmental biology, are enormously complex and are not simple binaries. I could say that misinformation being spread about LGBT queer youth is a huge risk factor for bullying and self-harm and suicide in these youths. I could say those things, but to be honest, the credential that I am most interested in expressing tonight is that I am a person who works with LGBTQ youth very closely. And what I am here to talk to you about is community. What True Colors is attempting to do is build a community that these young people can identify with. Unfortunately, in my time at Manhattan High School, I have gotten to see the effects of a lack of community among students, whether they be LGBT or not. It looks like a student sneaking into my classroom and sitting alone because they have no one to talk to. It looks like a student seeking out empty lunch tables because they're afraid of rejection. It looks like students taking a bathroom pass, not because they need to use the bathroom, but because they need a place to cry where no one will see them. This is what being alone means to youth. Unfortunately, when we talk about LGBT youth, that population is often ostracized and bullied more than their straight cisgendered cohort. This was driven home for me today when I watched a group of students in my classroom reading to themselves an email, widely distributed email, filled with misinformation meant to hurt them. Because this population is ostracized and bullied, often the effects of being alone look different. It's students who have been gone for a week, and I know they're not sick. They can't stand to come to school and face loneliness. It's students who turn to alcohol and drugs after school because they have nothing else to do. It's students who have a nervous breakdown in my storeroom behind my classroom and cry. It's students who come in and hide scars on their arms and legs because they don't have another outlet for their pain. It's the student who wrote a suicide note that ended with the line, "Tell Mr. Livingston I'm sorry." This is what loneliness looks like. This is what a lack of community looks like. Fortunately, in my time, both at the high school and at True Colors as a volunteer, I've gotten to see the other side of that. I've gotten to see students' face light up the first time they hear another student say, "Hey, bestie, good to see you." I've gotten to see students who, upon hearing some goofy comment from one of their friends, honestly, I don't understand the comments half the time, but they just are breathless with laughter. Seeing students eager to be with their friends after school and hang out with their friends after school means the world to these students, all of them. I would give all of them that if I could. I would give all of them that feeling. I'm not enough. I can't do that. What the people at True Colors are trying to do is build that community, give these students a safe space where they can be themselves, where they can develop, where they can become community members who feel loved and accepted and supported. And the students know. These students are, as I said, frequently targeted by bullying with that kind of interaction. They know when they are being targeted. The flip side of that is they know when they are being supported. There has been talk among the students I know about what you are preparing to vote on tonight, a complex city issue that they are aware of and have very strong feelings about. They will know if they are being supported by the city. They will know if they're being supported by their community. True Colors is providing that support. I would urge the commission to vote to use the alcohol fund money to continue to support the work that True Colors is doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to be next? Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Okay, well, Scott
Hagemeyer. Welcome, Scott. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Scott Hagemeister. I live at
Hagenmeister.
Hagemeister.
I'm sorry.
I live at 4650 South White Drive. For the last 25 years, I've served as a police officer in our community, and I'm currently one of 2 LGBTQ+ liaisons for our department. I'm not speaking here on behalf of the department. Instead, I'm here based on my own experiences in our community. And I'm here to encourage you to vote to provide funding to True Colors Flint Hills with monies from the special alcohol funds. Dealing with the effects of substance abuse, especially with our youth, is a continual struggle for our community. These formative years set the tone for how these young people will move forward, avoiding addiction, developing coping skills for societal pressures, crafting skills to deal with stress, and learning that there are safe adults and services that can come to for support and advice. We know that substance abuse often results from efforts to escape troubles in our lives. Our youth today face more pressure to perform, whether it is academics, athletics, artistic talent, or appearance. Social media provides a 24-hour barrage of what success looks like, or what it should look like. These pressures can seem insurmountable to our youth, and especially our queer and trans youth. The Center for Disease Control, the Division of Adolescent and School Health, reports that LGBTQ+ youth are 2 times more likely to use illegal drugs than other youth. When the CDC talks about health disparity for LGBTQ+ youth, they say this: comprehensive, community-wide prevention efforts can provide protection and reduce the health risks and negative experience of LGBTQ students. To thrive in their schools and communities, all students, including LGBTQ students, need to feel socially, emotionally, and physically safe and supported. Everyone has a role to play in helping youth become healthy adults. Connectedness, or social bonds, to peers, teachers, schools, or community organizations is key. These are the things that help kids thrive. True Color is a place that will provide the sort of environment where our LGBTQ+ youth will receive their emotional and social support in a physically safe environment. In the time I spend at True Colors, I've seen kids being kids. They're watching TV, they're playing games, they're creating art and engaging in conversations. It's an environment that fosters respect and allows these kids to be true to themselves without some of the judgment or apprehension they face in their daily lives. All too often, I've seen LGBTQ+ youth in our community that lack the social and emotional support they need to thrive. True Colors provides a space where they can safely interact with people their age who will offer a level of support not found in other youth programs, as well as time to interact with adults who will be supportive. Much like the funding the City Commission has set aside in the past for Boys and Girls Club and Big Brothers Big Sisters, I'm asking that the Commission show their support for our LGBTQ youth. Please vote to provide funding for True Colors from the money generated by the liquor tax and set aside in the Special Alcohol Fund. I believe that the elevated risk of illegal drug use by LGBTQ+ youth needs to be confronted from many angles, and True Colors is well suited to provide a safe and supportive environment and to provide access to professional resources.
Thank you very much. Is Gary Olds here?
He had to leave to go to Junction City.
Okay, thank you. All right. And Chelsea? Yes. How do you pronounce? Go ahead. Cipra. Okay, thank you. I couldn't read it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, please.
Well, I am here as a youth from Junction City who volunteers at True Colors. I'm 18 years old, and I will say that if I had had this as a thing when I was younger, I probably would have been able to get through school. I dropped out at 16-ish, the year before I went into my junior year. It was not a good time. And so if you all could just understand and, sorry, it's my first time, but it would be very, very wonderful for True Colors to be able to have financial support and community support, just so the youth of this area can feel comforted by the fact that their government is supporting of them. I know what it feels like to be attacked for different opinions. I was bullied throughout my entire youth as a LGBTQ individual. Many people knew. I've never been one to lie, honestly. It's very hard for me, and I speak far too much. But it's been hard because many people are not understanding of differences, nor are they okay with them. And so I would ask you to please use the alcohol tax fund and for True Colors, because it would be a wonderful benefit to the community of even cisgender youth or heterosexual youth. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Chelsea. Okay, that completes the people who have signed up ahead of time. Are there individuals that wish to come forward and speak more spontaneously now? Or unplanned, maybe? Welcome.
Commissioners, good evening. My name is Tom Adair.
Tom.
My address is 2708 St. Charles Circle. For those that don't know me, I'm an attorney here in town. I've been an attorney for almost 25 years for this place. When I started, I was a city prosecutor for Manhattan for over 5 years. Did all the prosecution for the city. I'm also a judge in St. George. I've handled, well over 10,000 cases dealing with DUIs and drug addiction. The reason I bring this up is because to let you know, I'm a little bit unique when it comes to this topic. I know a little bit when it comes to this topic because I've dealt with people that have dealt with these types of addictions. What I want to do is I want everybody here to imagine that we're no longer talking about LGBTQ. Imagine that we're talking about chess players. And the chess players at Manhattan High are ridiculed. The chess players at Manhattan High aren't normally taken in and brought in as part of the group. The chess players are 90% or higher more likely to use alcohol. 90% more likely to use drugs. 2 times the rate when it comes to suicide. Now I asked the commission, is there anything we wouldn't do for our children, for these chess players? I would hope the answer is no. These are part of our community, and we want to make sure that we help these chess players, these young kids, to stop down this path. When we change chess to LGBTQ, why does it make a difference? Why does it make a difference how they associate? We know for a fact from the science that this is a group of young individuals that are the most susceptible to what we're talking about here. And we're talking about an alcohol fund that the whole purpose of that tax is to make sure that we do alcohol prevention, that we do drug prevention, that we do any type of mental health that needs to be done. What better example does the commission need than True Colors? I don't know that there's one out here in Manhattan. A better representation of going to exactly the group that we need to be servicing. We live in a community with K-State. K-State is now, I talked to Ronnie Grice just before I came in. K-State's the #1 university with LGBTQ. We should have a community that supports that. We should have a community that supports our young adults. Now, I know there's some people in this audience that doesn't understand LGBTQ. I know there's people in the audience that says, well, no, not with my dollars. Take out the label. What does it, where do we put the price line of our youth and saving our youth? I don't know that we should be having one. And what they're asking for, sure in the hell is not enough to break the bank. We just went through the budgets. We're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars. Is it acceptable for us to go ahead and spend $10,000 so we can have a house, an environment, a community that these children feel safe? Again, what is the price of safety? I hope that it's not $10,000. I hope that the price of safety for these young ones is whatever we're willing to write that check for to make sure we're taking care of our youth. I understand Mr. Rodriguez doesn't want taxpayers being moved and that money being used. But I think everybody needs to understand that's not what we're talking about. It's a very dedicated special fund that is set aside that can only be used for these purposes. What else is out there that's helping the youth? You know, if we can reduce in this community the suicide rate by one child, is that worth you guys passing that bill? If it is, I'd ask that you do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person. Let's just do it. I think a lot of people will eventually want to speak, so let's keep the line going as someone finishes. Hello, welcome.
Perfect. Hello.
Yeah, welcome.
Hi, my name is Amber Starling. I represent Goodwitch Cleaning Services, of which I'm the founder and CEO. We are located at 408 Houston Street, and we have 10 employees, all of which live in Riley County. Permit me, Mayor. These funds come from the sale of alcohol in this area. Those funds are earmarked by the state, and the city is the one who says how it is dispersed. Is that correct?
The money comes from the state to the city, and I think the county also gets some, don't they? For any alcohol sales out there? We aren't sure about the county.
Yes.
But we know it. This is money that comes directly to the city.
Very good. Then let's banish the notion that this is coming out of our general fund or it is going to impact taxpayers in a specific way, because it does not come from those funds. So let's banish that thought. As a business owner, and Wynn, Mark, you guys are entrepreneurs, let's do some math together. There are 260 working days in a year. Let's imagine that they only use these services between the hours of 3 o'clock in the afternoon and 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's 2 hours a day. So we take 260 working days in a year times 2 hours per day that these families don't have to come and pick up their children, that they have access to free childcare. Let's take the LGBTQ out, free childcare for 2 hours a day. Let's say that those families, the person who's supposed to be picking up the kids makes $15 an hour, which is quite low because my employee's starting pay is considerably more than that. What we're looking at is an economic impact of $7,800 per family that comes and receives services. That doesn't sound like very much, but already this year, they have served 56 families. Let's do the math on that. $7,800 times 56 families, and that is one person, one parent, who is relieved of that duty and has access to these resources. That's $436,800 a year. Where else can you spend $10,000 and get an economic impact of almost $500,000? You can't. I would also like you to consider the big picture ramifications of denying their application. If the city denies these state funds to a qualified organization whose application met or exceeded the state's requirements, then that would be inviting the state to come in and audit the crap out of you. That audit would be an enormous waste of our already understaffed city's time and resources at an astronomical cost to our taxpayers. So turning down this $10,000 is going to turn into an even greater economic impact to your taxpayers. If your position on this matter is based on your personal, political, or religious beliefs, the only way for you to serve the public with integrity is to abstain. If you insist on enforcing your will over this community without regards to the proper use of these funds, you should resign.
Mayor Morse, Commissioners Hattasol, Reddy, Butler, and Commissioner Mata on Zoom there. Thank you very much. My name is Scott Seal. I'm a member of the Special Alcohol Board, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this issue today. We've listened to a lot of, and will probably continue to listen to a lot of complex and difficult issues, and those are all important. I don't want to minimize those at all. But I'm here to give you a simple and non-complex solution. The law requires that the Special Alcohol Fund have sole discretion in allocating these funds. And I want those two, sole discretion, with the advice and consent of the commission. I've asked several times from city staff, from the commissioners that I've spoken to provide some sort of citation in statute or ordinance that gives the commission the authority to line item veto allocations made by the Special Alcohol Board, and so far, we have not found anything. I've asked staff and commissioners to provide an example in history where where a city commission in this town has gone in and individually struck an individual allocation from special alcohol. And so far, I have not been provided with an example of that circumstance. Special alcohol is different from Social Services Advisory Board. The Social Services Advisory Board is a creature of this commission, and you guys can do whatever you want with those funds, for whatever reason you decide to do it. Special Alcohol Fund is different, and I know you all know this. Those funds are allocated by the state. The board is created by statute and given, again, I want to emphasize these words, sole discretion on how to allocate those funds. If you do not want to approve of that, you can vote against, to my understanding, you can vote against the funding in totality, all $450,000 of it. But you do not, and no one has given, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an expert, so if someone comes up to me and says, this is where we get the authority, then fine, I'll stand down. But no one has been able to provide to me in city ordinance or state statute justification for the city commission going in and striking out an individual allocation. These funds were allocated in public hearings where public comment was available. Any person, we have empty seats on our board because we can't find enough people to sit down and go through all of these applications and decide who deserves what. So there is ample opportunity for every member of this community to be involved and to say, I don't think this organization should get those funds. I can tell you I've been on this committee for 3 years, and we have never, not one single time, had someone from the community show up to give public comment. The opportunity was there, and no one complained. We have gone through this, and we have talked about everything about what these organizations mean and what they do to do what we are chartered to do by state statute, which is work with drug and alcohol prevention and treatment with a focus on youth. That's what this organization does. And I have said over and over again to commissioners that I've spoken to anyone who asks, if an organization were to come to this committee that does whatever the exact opposite of this would be, and they can show to me that they are working for drug and alcohol prevention and treatment with a focus on youth, then I'll give them $10,000 too. This is not about the content of this organization. This is about treating drug and alcohol addiction and preventing drug and alcohol addiction and using the funds as the statute requires us to do. So if you need a reason to vote for this, the reason is you have to, because the state law says so. And if that's not enough and you don't want to do it, then you need to vote against the entire $450,000. And then you can go to the constituents and to the people of the organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters and Boys and Girls Club and CASA and Be Able, who are receiving these funds and doing good work in our community as well, and explain to them why you don't think they should get the funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
Hello.
Hello, welcome.
My name is Abigail Cronander. My address is 1801 Humboldt, Manhattan, Kansas. I am the author of the letter that was sent to you earlier today by a collective of MHS graduates. I believe at the time we sent it to you last, we had 64 signees. We now have over 80. They are all Manhattan High School graduates who identify as LGBTQ members. And the basis of our letter is that if we had had a resource like True Colors, things would have been a lot different for us, a lot better. We would have a lot more fond memories of our time in Manhattan, which is hard for me to say because I love Manhattan. But when I was in school, which was only 4 years ago, I didn't have a resource like this. I didn't know who else to go to. I didn't have anyone else to go to. And I can tell you that as a queer person who grew up in Manhattan, it is much easier to get drugs and alcohol than it is to find a safe queer space. So, I don't know how many other people in here are queer youth who've grown up in Manhattan, but I can tell you, very easy to get things that teenagers, kids should not be getting. And so True Colors, I think, is a great allocation of this resource, because if I had had somewhere to go after school, people to talk to like-minded, someone who just genuinely cared about me as a person, the whole person, not just the person I presented to everyone every day, that maybe I wouldn't have struggled, a lot of my friends wouldn't have struggled. And I don't want to see the current youth, the future youth, I don't want to see them struggle with the same things that I struggled with. And I stand here today, I'm supported by my wife, who is also a MHS graduate, my very wonderful in-laws, who have welcomed me into their family. And without them, I wouldn't have known that there was any sort of queer community in Manhattan. I simply wouldn't have known. And I think that True Colors being available to anyone, queer youth, allies, I mean, anyone who needs the help, it will change a lot of lives. And I think, if I may quote a Manhattan Mercury article that was written July of this year, True Colors is meant to keep kids alive. And I think that that is the least we can do.
Thank you, Abigail. Does someone else wish to speak?
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Mike Bonella. I live at 829 D. Hoff Drive here in Manhattan. I'm speaking to you as the parent of a teen who goes to True Colors. So it's been an interesting thing being a parent of a LGBTQ youth and seeing the struggles with our own family members, not immediate family. I'm proud to say that our immediate family is extremely supportive. Our extended family, not so much. Bullying is very real, and it occurs earlier than you think it does. I wish I could count on one hand, and I can't do it on two, how many times we've had to call friends' parents and say, your kid is threatening suicide. You need to check on your kid. This was before True Colors. Since True Colors, I have not had to call another parent with that phone call. Since True Colors, my kid comes home happy. My kid has a place to go where they feel important and welcome, and they're making friends. It's changed their life for the better. So I can't believe that this even needs to be said, that this organization needs support. I'm seeing familiar faces up here and having flashbacks of times where we've discussed LGBTQ rights with rental properties and such. And things didn't go so well back then. I hope we have all learned from those times and have grown as individuals to be more accepting and to present to the community that we care about these kids. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and I look forward to you making the right decision to support these kids. I can't tell you how great this organization has been for my child. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Mike, would you sign in? I think he's going to chase you down. You're welcome to go ahead and begin speaking while Mike is signing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess I probably am going to be a minority here, but that's usually the case. You know, any group that wants something shows up in mass, and usually those that have an objection are fewer in number. But I want to say that I have.
What is your name and
what
address?
we're talking about here.
What is your name and address?
What?
Your name and address.
Oh, Larry Limbacher.
Yeah, okay, and your address?
Yeah, what we're talking about here is a, what? I didn't hear.
What's your address?
I'm a little hard to hear.
What is your address?
What?
What is your address?
Oh, 2108 Snowbird.
Okay, thank you. That's all. That's the procedure. Thank you.
Yeah. But anyway, my objection here is that this should not be public funded. I think the house was donated. I think it's a social issue, an issue that is divisive in how to handle the situation in our community. And with such an issue like that, I think it's best to be funded by private funds. I don't think it should be a tax. I don't think you should, well, and you can disagree with this on percentages, but if the majority of a town would not vote for something like this, then obviously the tax dollars, you know, are something that should be considered, whether or not you fund a house like this. I think there's plenty of people here that are for the house and I think there wouldn't be any problem in private funding on it. Katie's Way is privately funded and does quite well, you know, and serves a purpose. So I think that's really an issue that I want to put forward on this. I don't want to be divisive. I want to be courteous. I want to be kind and treat people, you know, all people kindly. So I don't have, other than the tax issue is what I wanted to bring up, and I just think it should be a private matter and funded privately, and not be a situation that causes any controversy or anything like that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Did you sign in? Sir, Larry, you have to, yep. Thank you for speaking. And please sign in. Next person, please come forward.
Hi, my name is Michelle Toes. My address is 1827 Grand Vista Lane. I work in the field of prevention science, and I have shared a letter with all of you that I would like to share publicly and add a couple of comments to my letter. A lot of what I'm going to say has already been said, but I think it's worth saying again. In the field of prevention science, according to the Center for Disease Control, SAMHSA, as well as youth.gov, sorry, I need progressive lenses, so I have to take off my glasses because I can't see what I have written, sorry. Some of the risk factors for substance use are people who experience peer rejection from their families, and mental health issues. There are many others, but those are three of the big ones, all of which are experienced at a much higher rate by the LGBTQ community. Some of the protective factors are good peer relationships, connections to adults outside of one's families, opportunities for engagement within the community, and a sense of physical and psychological safety, all of which True Colors provides. One of the things that I did not add in my letter that I think is worth noting is in the field of prevention science, we often do what's called a cost-benefit ratio. We had someone do some math earlier. I'm not going to walk us through another math exercise, but I am going to say that research has consistently found for every $1 that you spend on prevention, it saves $10 later on. So by making a $10,000 investment in True Colors, you will save the city $100,000 at least. That's not counting what our previous speaker shared in terms of funding. This is a group that is a much higher rate of substance use, which has been mentioned numerous times. I've provided training for some of the True Colors staff on substance use and suicide prevention. It's a very dedicated group that is made up of mostly volunteers. The funding for this will go to support the executive director's salary, who works probably right now for less than $1 an hour, given the number of hours that she's putting in at True Colors. I understand that people think this is a tax issue. I think it was clearly stated before, and I just want to reiterate this. This is not our tax dollars at all. If you do not want to support True Colors, don't buy alcohol.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you. My name's Misty Hendricks. I reside at 308 Highland Point Drive. I am coming to you today with the unique perspective of having served the LGBT community in Manhattan for 20 years. About 20 years ago, I was an officer of the Gay Straight Alliance at Manhattan High when it officially became a club. And I also have the unique experience of being the parent of a child who has recently come out. I can tell you that as somebody who has been a member of the LGBT community in Manhattan for numerous years, a place like Manhattan where the only thing we have to do is go drink, you've heard people for years lamenting the lack of safe spaces for youth. And I'm here to say that I have lost too many people in my life, and I don't want to lose any more. And I'm not just talking inside, I am talking to things like DUIs, and then their entire life starts to go off the rails, and they never reach the full potential of what these brilliant, brilliant youth could have been. I can't lose any more people. We as a community cannot lose any more people. You've heard the statistics. You know what happens to LGBT youth when they don't feel supported. And I can't have that be my son. I can't watch what I've watched happen to my friends happen to my son. I can't let it happen to his peers. I am so invested in this community and all of its members, regardless of sexual orientation, and I would hope that other people would be too, and that the cost of saving a life would be a little bit more than $10,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Misty. Oh, Misty, would you sign in, please?
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Hi there. I'm Ted Morgan. I live at 1801 Humboldt Street with my wife, and we raised our 3 kids in Manhattan, one of whom still lives at home. You heard from I'm also the proud dad of a gay daughter, who you heard from her wife earlier. I'm also the former vice chair of the Flint Hills Human Rights Project. And I strongly support the use of special alcohol funds to support True Colors in their mission to provide a safe space for LGBTQ+ youth in Manhattan, Kansas. So you've heard from everyone in the room about why True Colors is doing great work. I want to tie you back to 6 years ago when we sat here in this room with a lot of these people talking to 3 of you and 2 other commissioners about what we wanted this community to be. We talked about how we wanted Manhattan to be a welcoming community, an accepting community, and a community where everyone felt comfortable in who they were and how they expressed themselves in our community. And the commission, including 3 of you, Mayor Morse, Commissioner Reddy, and Commissioner Butler all voted for this. We had some quibbles about details of it, which we have come a long way. We heard from somebody who works at our RCPD earlier tonight. The quibbles that went on at that vote that ultimately had a 3-2 part of it had to do something with RCPD. RCPD's come along and made significant advances in how they are supporting the LGBTQ community. So this was a community effort. A year prior to that, we stood up at a public comment session, like Katie did earlier tonight, and spoke about the need for this in the community. The first session was one of your former colleagues, Jared McKee, spoke about his life as a gay man in this community and what it meant to him to have the protections which you ultimately voted on for him. The other couple that night was Jim and Judy Nichols, who spoke about their life as parents of their trans daughter, Bree, who grew up in this community, and they spoke to you as parents and as members of this community about how they feared for the safety of their daughter just living in this community. As time went on, as the three of you know, we spent a good solid year chatting back and forth with the three of you that are here and with council and other folks, and we ultimately got this done as a community because we knew it was the right thing to do for Manhattan. We knew that it would make Manhattan a better place, it would make Manhattan a more accepting place, and ultimately, we moved it across the finish line almost 6 years to the day it went into effect. Sorry, going off script. Tonight, you have the chance to do this again. And I agree with previous speakers. I can't believe we're actually talking about this. It's one of these things where we need to protect children. We need to protect my children. We need to protect Jim and Judy's children. We need to protect our community's children. And one of the ways that we can do that, a drop in the bucket, is supporting True Colors. There's nothing radical going on there. My son goes there. He comes home and talks about crocheting. He comes home and talks about watching Stranger Things. He comes home and talks about, pizza night at True Colors. It's a place, it's a safe space for LGBT kids to be themselves and live authentically within our community, the things that we all spoke of as a community 6 years ago, and the three of you voted on. And we were happy to have the support. So I'll wrap up and basically say the vote that you passed 6 years ago, you passed unanimously, clearly demonstrated that you had the backs of the LGBT community in this town. You need to do this for the children of this community as well. They know about this vote tonight, and the message that it's going to send to them is going to be one that the leaders of this community do not have the backs of the LGBT kids in this town. Please do not remove the support for True Colors from the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melody Pooler. I live at 130 Longview Drive, and I ask you to be patient with me. I just got out of the hospital on Saturday. I'm a double lung transplant patient in serious rejection, and my kidneys are failing. But I was determined I was going to be here tonight, and so I'm going to do my best to stand. Misty's going to help me here. I'm a member of the Flint Hill Suicide Prevention Task Force, but that is not why I'm here this evening, not speaking on their behalf, although I think every member of that board would agree with what I'm going to say. I'm here on behalf of all my friends in my community and my son, Kelly. I know Kelly would have wanted to be here tonight, and I wish he could be, but he's dead. The victim of suicide, Kelly was gay. He grew up in this community. He was a straight-A student. He was gifted and talented, and most importantly, he gave, and he gave, and he gave, and he was kind. And I think many people here that knew Kelly can attest to that, because I see many of his friends today. I was standing here more than a decade ago in front of you, asking to support my son and the other people and children in our community that were suffering. Kelly went through years of being afraid, of feeling isolated, of feeling rejection, and not getting any support. And it was few and far between. He didn't live to get to see true colors come to light, but I know what that would mean to him. I know what that would mean, that other young people had a resource that he didn't have. His constant anxiety caused chronic depression and mental illness. And no matter how hard he tried, and let me tell you something, he tried, he fought, he was the greatest advocate for himself. But it's hard when you don't have a community to support you. On the 14th of this month, will mark the 2nd anniversary of Kelly's passing. I lost both my sons to suicide. Matthew 13 years ago, and Kelly on the 14th. He was found in a hotel room, and he had overdosed. And he left a note saying that he just didn't measure up, that he was afraid that someone was going to attack him because he was gay, that he didn't know where he fit in or how to get the help that he needed. It's a grave loss for all of us, because Kelly had much to contribute. And many of these children out here today have so much to give. You do not have an idea the talent, the compassion these young people have. Someone said something about divisiveness. The majority of people would not vote for something, causes divisiveness. I have a feeling that the majority of people in our community would vote for this. And it's not us causing divisiveness. We are asking every single one of us to be a community. And what is community? Community. To commune with one another, to live and care for one another. And I am just appalled that in all this passage of time, and the death of so many, including my son, that we're still having to beg for support and help. And be very careful, because you never know when someone you love is going to come out. It's not easy. And I think you would want the same love and support for your loved one as we are asking for ours. And I'd just like to say, in all due respect to Marvin Rodriguez, if the years you live make you smart, then there are a lot of stupid old people in our country. It takes more than the passage of time to make you an informed, an educated, a compassionate, and a caring person. And I hope you keep that in mind when you think of my son and all these people out here today. You know, what I would give to have my son here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mel, for making the effort to be here tonight. Next speaker, please.
Hi, Scott Arnold, 2825 Arbor Drive. I'll sign in a bit. I'm not here really to say that I want you to vote yes or no, either way, on this $10,000 to True Colors. I think what I'm here to say tonight, and I wasn't even planning on speaking, I think what I'm here to say tonight is my heart goes out to everyone here, because I think we're trying to put a Band-Aid on a situation that is really not going to help in the long run. If we want to look at long-term situation here, Why are children killing themselves? Why are children hurting? Why are children scared to go to school? Why are children, and God, my heart goes out to you and your family. But, and I'm going to be the one that just stands up here and puts my heart on the line for everybody here. I will stand up with any one of you, each and every one of you, to tell you that your worth doesn't come from your identity. Your worth comes from God, our Lord and Savior. Your worth is far more than what you think you are. You are worth so much more. And God help us if we're not looking at it in that respect. All we're doing is trying to put a Band-Aid on a situation here. We're not looking at the hole that's in the hearts of our people in our city. God help us. In the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, let's stop. Let's stop being divisive. It's not about divisiveness. It's about standing up as a community and living with each other and helping our kids grow. And helping our kids grow into the person that God intended them to be. Give them the same opportunities that we had when we were growing up. Some of us old
Mr. Arnold, yeah.
I'm sorry.
You need to address the commissioners.
I'm sorry, I'm addressing the commission.
You must be a pastor.
No, I'm not. Well, I'm a lay pastor.
Okay.
I love the Lord Jesus
but
Christ,
please,
and
yeah.
and I will back up. I was going to introduce myself as a veteran of many years in the military. I am a recovering alcoholic and a drug addict, and I considered suicide several times. The only answer, the only thing that saved me was my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I am willing to stand up with anybody that has any questions about why they're scared, why they're sad, why they feel alone. It's because there's a hole in our heart we need to fill, and there's only one way to fill it. So God love us. One more thing. If our mill levy's at 0 for next year, does that mean all of those organizations get less if you give the 10,000 True Colors? And I'm not saying don't give the 10,000 True Colors. Maybe the gentleman Scott with the alcohol board was correct. Let them decide what they do with all their funds.
There's a difference between sales tax and property tax.
Oh,
so
okay, gotcha.
Now you can go on.
Probably
Yeah.
missed that part. But that's all I want to say. The big thing is I'll stand up with anybody that wants me. I'll stand around. Anybody wants to talk, I'm free.
Okay, out in the lobby. That'd
Thank
be
you
great.
all.
Thank you. Yep, sign up.
Thank you.
Next person, please come forward.
John Bull, 3107 Harrahey Ridge. I'm here to talk specifically. We've heard a lot about suicide rates across multiple populations, and the teen population and the adult population is clearly unacceptable. I've been doing government service now. Next year will be almost 50 years. I work out at Fort Riley. The United States Army has spent literally millions of dollars trying to get suicides under control. We really haven't broken that code yet, but part of that does involve counseling. We haven't been successful yet, but we are exploring additional things to do. We're in the process of standing up a prevention workforce cell to do data analysis, trend analysis, and population analysis to see if there's some different ways we can get at drug and alcohol issues and other things. Now, I have to admit, as a former almost 5-year chair of the Social Services Board, I didn't understand why this request didn't come through Social Services, because Social Services, certainly when I was there, worked with special alcohol to align social services that were related to drug and alcohol items. So I'm kind of surprised it's in the drug and alcohol and didn't come through social services, but it is what it is. We are looking at using tax money. We can call it lots of different things, but it is tax money. And we do use tax money to do social service related events. So that's That's really less of the issue in my mind. My concern really came in when it went beyond counseling and the advocation. I noticed none of the advocates mentioned the fact that True Colors advocates for drug therapy and body modification for minors. That was in the packet, and if that's not, do I have the floor or not?
Yeah, you have the floor, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if that is not true, then it shouldn't have been in the packet and the information, because I think that's where a lot of people have concerns. It's one thing to do counseling, it's another thing to start making permanent changes to minors. Quick, just background. I have a adoptive daughter who's a schizophrenic. I've been through the suicide attempts, the suicide gestures, worked with her through that. From 16, now she's 22. In high school, she thought she was a lesbian. Then she thought she was bisexual. Now she's heterosexual, and that's all her choice. I mean, that's how she's evolved. And she may go someplace else after, as far as orientation, sometime in the future. But those are her choices, and we support her choices. I have 10 grandchildren, another one on the way. I have a grand-teen. She's biological female, does not identify with any gender, either gender, and she lives with us, and we support her. Kids, regardless, will thrive in a loving and caring home. I would certainly support a counseling for this particular group, just like we would pick any other group, either through social services or even really drug and alcohol. As I mentioned, it's the permanent body modification therapy that has no track history of being effective or helping with the suicide rate. And so that's what I was particularly concerned about. But if it's counseling, then we can certainly, like I said, we fund other social services organizations, and this one doing drug and alcohol counseling and then working with a group should not be inconsistent with some of the other programs we're running. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Someone else interested in coming forward? We have one. Welcome, Jamie.
Good evening. Jamie Morris Hardiman, 1822 Laramie. I am the founder of True Colors. I am their board treasurer, and I will tell you that we are doing nothing at True Colors that relates to permanent change to anyone's body. We are not providing hormones. The doctor has to do that. You can't do that as a facility. We are not recommending that kids have permanent changes to their body. No doctor would do that under 18 anyway. There are no services like that being provided at the house. I don't know what's being interpreted that way, because nothing in the information we provided to the commission included information about permanent changes to anyone's body, whether that's hormones or surgery. And those things are not happening at True Colors. What is happening is referral to mental health services. We have a therapist available to us that allows our kids to jump the line. So if you have anybody who's tried to access mental health services, you know that it's really hard to get in. Therapy is difficult to find in this town. We have a therapist who allows priority for the kids from True Colors. That's it. That therapist is there to deal with the issues of anxiety and depression. And those things come from kids being treated like crap by people who don't support them because they're LGBTQ. I am appalled by the message that came from the Republican Party that said that those kind of services were happening at True Colors. It's a complete falsehood, not just misinformation, but a complete lie. What is happening at that home is kids are getting the services that help to prevent alcohol and drug use. That's what we're talking about, Special Alcohol Fund. We applied to that specifically because the services that we do provide fit exactly in the criteria of the Special Alcohol Fund. One-on-one relationship with adults. There are adults there in the house constantly who are background checked, who have been thoroughly trained, and it's their chance to interact with those kids. That's one piece of it. They have access to therapy. That's another piece of it. They have activities that they can do. They have a safe space. In my mind, that could not more closely meet the criteria of prevention under the Special Alcohol Fund, which is why we made our application to that board. Thank you for your consideration. I'm very grateful. I know you've sat here for a long time tonight and had to hear a lot of people. So thanks. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Jan. Welcome. Your name, sir?
David Fowler, 427 Houston Street, here in Manhattan. Madam Mayor, City Commissioners, first I want to actually just say, a little out of reference from this, but I understand a few of the ones on the commission have had a little health issues, and just want to let you know that we're praying for you, and we are glad to see and hear more about just speedy recoveries, and we'll continue to be praying for you all as well. And I want to go back and reference a little before I start in where some prepared comments. I'm typically just can kind of get up and speak and might get off topic a little bit, want to make sure I stay on topic, but I do go back to the same thing. I've dealt years in youth ministry, dealing with teenagers from all kinds of backgrounds, drugs, alcohol. Had a teenage girl one year that exactly what Scott was saying. Most of the reason that we see in these people of drug and alcohol, specifically drug and alcohol addiction that comes in. I had a teenage girl that walked out of a church service one time, and I saw her run out, and she said, you know, I went after her. I said, what's going on? Where are you going? What are you doing? And she sat down and she said, you don't want me. And she took all the drug paraphernalia across, and she had had many attempts where she had suicide. I said, no, you don't understand. We love you as you are. That's the thing about Jesus. He loves you right where you're at. And this isn't about where you are at, what you've done right or wrong. Jesus loves you exactly where you're at. And so that's the thing, as Scott said, it's about getting to a place where we can help teens understand. And this is really, to me, it's not just about LGBTQ. It's about every teenager where they're at, helping them identify what the true root of the problem is of why they're seeking after suicide. And that ultimately all comes back to what Scott said, and I couldn't have said it any better than he did. It comes back to your identity, that we're talking about identity crisis. It really comes back to we all are searching for who we are, and until we find Jesus Christ and make him the Lord and Savior of our life, we're all just on this journey out here lost and hurting. And I understand no matter what, there's people hurting all over. But that's why it bothered me at first when I first heard about, well, first it was actually kind of enlightening to find out that we as a city have $450,000 annually earmarked for teen suicide prevention. I think that's awesome. I think it's great. I mean, it's interesting that it comes from the, drug or alcohol tax dollars, but for the tax and the drug awareness for teen suicide prevention, I think that is a necessary thing in this community. And to find out there's typically approximately $450,000 a year to do that with is amazing. But my first question was, if that's money's there, then what are we doing as a community? Where's this money going? Where's it earmarked for? And what are we actually doing that's legitimately, truly helping these teenagers where they're at in all walks of life, not just LGBTQ, but in all the walks of life. And I think, God, there are opportunities for people of every demographic. But I do say, going back to that, when I first heard, as a parent, as a leader here in the community, that it was brought to my awareness that $10,000 was being considered to be given to a True Colors. When I started looking at what the organization is, I'm not against the LGBTQ community, but again, just because we're looking for help for any community, it's got to be an organization that's got some kind of a track record that they've actually done this. Some kind of because when we're putting $10,000 of city funds, we're putting our stamp as a city saying, yes, this is an organization we recommend to go for help like this, but that's kind of got to be a proven track record. And I'm not aware of any track record of an organization similar to the True Colors organization. And really, it's new enough that there is no track record here of them being able to prevent any suicide. I'm all for money going towards anything that prevents suicide, but to me as a leader in the community, we've got to look and see if there's $450,000, what are we doing as a community, as a leader, to either find the organizations that are truly proving their track record to do this, and let's go all in. I mean, if they need $450,000, let's get it to that organization, or if they need more funding. But I think it's easy to say, well, it's just $10,000, who cares? Just give it to them. But again, we know any organization, True Colors or not, when you start small, and then the next year you ask for more. You kind of get on the books. And so again, we show a track record of, okay, let's start funding an organization that has no track record, has nothing proven. I know that the previous speaker said they're not doing it, but if you look to their website, you see all kinds of things about puberty blockers and things that go the direction, unless they've just recently removed them in the last few days, it's very obvious that there's things on there going this direction, and many doctors and nurses will tell you that these things, there's no proven track record for it. And they're highly concerned with where these effects can be on our kids, on our teens, 10, 20, 30 years from now. There's nothing that shows this. So for us as a community to put our stamp on that and to actually fund it, I think is very irresponsible.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler.
Good evening. My name is Janet George, 1916 Plymouth Road.
I missed your name.
Janet George.
Janet George, okay.
Had not planned on speaking tonight. God does love me. Jesus does love me. But people in churches don't always love me. I identify as a lesbian. It is scary to walk into some churches because they don't welcome me. They just don't. I am now very happily a member of a church, and they love me, they accept me. That's what we're talking about. The other thing about me is I am a disability inclusion specialist. I've been doing that for 35 years. And inclusion is about creating welcoming environments so people feel like they belong. Part of our work, because of intersectionality of disability, we have to talk about race, gender, sexual orientation. All of those kinds of things come into play when we're talking about inclusive environments. It's not enough to get in the building. You have to be allowed to be a meaningful participant in the community, and that's what we're asking for. We want our youth who identify LGBTQ to feel welcome in the environment. And to do that, we have to have spaces where they feel safe. We've had people say, I've been in a lot of places that didn't feel safe. I've been harmed. I didn't have a place to go to. All we're talking about is a space. So the risk factors, I've already talked about them: bullying, not having a place you feel safe, not having people you can identify with. Those are risk factors for increased alcohol and drug use. True Colors creates safe space. That's one of the protective factors to reduce alcohol and drug use. They provide vetted. I've been doing disability inclusion for 35 years, and I'm still not an approved volunteer because I haven't finished all the steps yet. I'm trained in mental health first aid. I've done the interview. Professional references have been called, but there's another step. I haven't done it yet. With my experience and all my references, it's still not enough. So we have vetted adults in this environment that become a trusted adult for these youth. That's one of the top protective factors to go against the risk factors for drug and alcohol use. So there's two: a safe and welcoming environment and trusted adults. And then the third is access to mental health. As they've already said, access to mental health care is so hard right now, and these youth need access. We've heard from RCPD, we've heard from schools, we've heard from medical care. It's all we're asking: $10,000 to help support a safe environment, a trusted adult, and access to mental health care. There's not a surgical suite at the house. It doesn't exist. It's people who love and care about youth. It's youth. They're our youth. I don't have my own kids, but I've spent my lifetime trying to make sure that youth were included around the world in programs where they wanted to be included. Right now, Manhattan is not welcoming LGBTQ youth in the way they could be. True Colors is going to help us maximize helping these youth feel welcomed. That's all we're asking. I don't understand why this is such a hard thing. Thank you for your time.
My name is Jody O'Malley, 709 Canyon Drive. I was a little bit confused about what we were talking about tonight, but that's kind of who I am. But anyway, it has come to my attention that True Colors, and I want you to know, we love you, but I want to talk to you too. We can hear you. Good. I want people to understand that people in the church love them. We're not against them. I'm with Scott. I would stand here with anybody. My question to the commissioners is, if we're going to provide, let's provide for all the youth. Suicide and drug addiction, heartbreaking in all cases. Tragically, it increased during the pandemic. For me, it would be helpful for you to reconsider until we have a track record here. I would welcome any kind of suicide and alcohol prevention if it included everybody. We're talking about all-inclusive. Behind every suicide attempt and alcohol, there is a root cause. I understand that. I lost a sister to alcohol. I had a lot of alcoholics in my family, so I do get it. As I indicated earlier, there's root causes to every dilemma, and I would be interested to know, I would like to know what kind of counseling. I'm oblivious to what's going on there. I would like to know what kind of counseling young adults who are faced with these issues, what kind of counseling are they getting? This is no time for a young person to be uninformed about what is going on in their bodies, because in ignorance they will believe they are unique and wonder what is wrong with them, when sometimes there's nothing at all wrong with them. Development, insecurities, and early adolescence go hand in hand. For many young people, puberty is the enemy of self-esteem. My concern are for the younger children who may feel that they are the wrong gender or any kind of issues like that. Undoubtedly, they're going to have questions, and questions they may not know where to go to get accurate answers. So they may turn to a friend. I fear there is a likely probability of rushing to validate the feeling of insecurity, low self-esteem, or sometimes even gender, and jumping into creating a new identity or validation in a hopeful acceptance of a new self. We must take every precaution to protect our children and to provide counsel that includes parents that seek to explore the depth of the matter first and make sure that we are providing the best avenues to help them grow into healthy adults. In ending, I would advise parents and those who are interested to do some of your own research. Thank you very much.
Thank you for speaking.
My name is Susan Girth. I live at 2213 Alta Drive. And Jody O'Malley had some really valid points. She did. It's important to allow children to explore who they really are, and to do so with a science background. Unfortunately, gender identity and sexual orientation are very, very, very complex. I'm also a Christian, and I believe that God made us who we are. And I also believe that when my daughter came out as transgender 14 years ago, the greatest act of faith she ever made was to accept herself as the woman that God made her, instead of the man that she had been raised to be. Our kids are under constant attack. Many of you know my family's story. 14 years into this, we still haven't had a meal together because of differences. If my daughter had had the support when she was in high school so that she wasn't afraid to come out as transgender, maybe she wouldn't have attempted suicide several times. We were lucky She came through on the other end. God did make a most amazing and beautiful variety of humans. And it is important to get counseling that allows you to explore who you are and whether you believe in God or whether you believe that it's okay to be LGBT or not. That's not what this is about. This is about taking care of our kids, putting our kids above our ideologies and putting our kids first. This $10,000 can help our kids, all of our kids, and don't worry, there's plenty of the other $450,000 that's going to cishet kids. We're not the only ones asking for money, but we do appreciate you considering all that has been said tonight and providing for God's beautiful children. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Debbie Edwards, and I'm at 8554 William Drive here in Manhattan. I'm coming from a little different perspective than probably anybody else in here can relate to, but a lot of this has affected a lot of people. I'm coming from a post-abortive standpoint. 1 in 4 women you rub elbows with every day are post-abortive. And of those 1 in 4, 40% have had more than one abortion. We have a 30 to 50% suicide rate in girls that are under 24 years of age that have been post-abortive. We have a huge alcohol and drug problem. I have counseled women for the last 15 years on this subject. I myself am post-abortive, and I had an alcohol and drug problem for quite a few years. I think we need to look at the situation and what's causing the alcohol, what's causing the suicide rates, and we need to address them. We can't just put people in categories of here, 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 and here. We've got to look at the big picture. And the big picture states, we got a problem with suicide, we got a problem with drugs, we got a problem with alcohol. They called down to Aggieville, I think it was last week, there was a notice that said 3 or 4 guys or girls have been laced with fentanyl and oxycodone, sorry. We have an issue in this community with our soldiers being suicidal. I think the bigger issue is, will this $10,000 help one little group, or will this $10,000 help a majority of the group? I'm not opposed to the LGBTQ, sorry, I hope I got that right, a community. I have friends that are gay, lesbian, transgender. I have friends that are like that. That's not my issue. My issue is, if we are truly, truly going to help suicide, drug and alcohol prevention, we can't limit it to one group. We've got to incorporate everybody.
Thank you for speaking.
Good evening. Carla Hagemeister, 4650 South Dwight. I have only 2 comments. Didn't plan to comment tonight, but out of the conversation that's been happening this evening, one of the concerns has been that True Colors doesn't have a track record, that it's a new organization. I understand that. New organizations are going to be created. The statute, however, anticipated that. From the Kansas statute that created the local alcoholic liquor fund distribution of monies, which is KSA 79-41A04. Not a lawyer, Tom can correct me later on if he needs to, but way down in big B, little d, I believe, it includes that monies in the Special Community Support Program, and Parks and Rec Fund may be expended only for 1, the establishment and operation of a domestic violence program, that doesn't apply to this, or 2, the purchase, establishment, maintenance, or expansion of parks and recreational programs and facilities. Money in the Special Alcohol and Drug Programs Fund shall be expended only for the purchase, establishment, maintenance, or expansion of services or programs whose principal purpose is alcoholism and drug abuse prevention and education, alcohol and drug detoxification, intervention in alcohol and drug abuse treatment of persons who are alcoholics or drug abusers or are in danger of becoming alcoholics or drug abusers. What I would say to that is that the statute anticipated that there would be creation of organizations and that there would be at least some funding requests happening for those organizations within their first year or on the early end. Because as we know, it's hard to start something. Whether things come from public funding or private funding later on, getting things off the ground is a lot of work. My second comment that I just want to address is that question of are we serving everybody or are we serving only a pocket of population? We are asking for $10,000 in a special alcohol allotment of over $400,000. We are serving a population who we know is at higher risk, and we are not wanting to take away from any other organization that wants to come and ask special alcohol funding. We know that there are many good organizations that are doing this work, and they are serving their populations. Be Able is serving a particular population. Boys and Girls Club is serving a particular population. And some of our kids at True Colors are not being reached through those programs. All of these things come together. That is how this work happens. It doesn't happen by having some one magic and special program that can address everything. We can't. There are not the resources in the world, there are not the people in the world, there's not the skills in the world to do it with one great big umbrella organization. What it takes is groups of people who care about different issues to come together and work cooperatively to make sure the needs of everybody in our community are met. And that's what we are asking for. We are saying that this is a population whose needs have not been met, and we want to step up and help that population, not to the detriment of anybody else, but recognizing that that is a gap in the services that are provided currently in our community. Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi there. Justin Frederick, 200 Brooklawn. I just kind of want to bring a perspective of someone that works with at-risk students. I've worked here for 5 years at Kansas State, speaking on my behalf, but I work in our Office of Student Life, and I serve high-risk students. I go multiple times a year. I call families who have had a loss of a child, and that is for a lot of reasons, but there are many times that is suicide. And death by suicide is happening a lot, like we know. And we also know about the alcohol concerns in our office as well. So one of the things I talk about a lot is we do a lot of mental health funding between the LGBT Center and the CARE, the Center for Advocacy, Response, and Education. We've seen great help getting those people connected. I can't think of an organization where we can get people to mental health resources faster, why that would not be something that you would want to do. I'll be honest, I grew up in Kansas. I grew up in Topeka, Kansas, one of the most hateful cities when you think about being a young LGBT person, seeing Fred Phelps at your church every week. I chose not to come to K-State because of what the Manhattan community felt like back in the late 90s. I chose to come here. I made the choice to come here in 2017 because I saw so much work. I saw a place for me. I saw a place where my family wasn't worried about me. I moved from a metro area where there was a lot more resources. I'm very proud to call Manhattan home. I didn't know that I would be here 5 years, I'll be honest. I really thought 3, and I'm not leaving. So I just know that from working with our students, our LGBT population, LGBTQ plus population, are historically underrepresented groups at Kansas State and in Manhattan need these resources. They don't feel like they can access them elsewhere, right? So if these churches were providing these programs, that'd be different, and if they were doing it in an all-inclusive and not any pointed way. So it's very important that obviously a void was seen and it was found people who were going to create that. I've learned, I did not know much about the organization until recently. Track records are developed with time. You can't always get easy facts. I can't tell you which student I met with that I got connected to mental health resources or to an alcohol recovery program that survived because they're still here. So that makes it kind of hard. So with that, I just can't see why you wouldn't, with this funding amount and that kind of stuff and everything that's been said, I think by that group, but just knowing how many students I meet from the Manhattan area that come to K-State in rural areas who don't have any access to these services, to know that Manhattan can be a glimmer of hope in the state of Kansas, to be a place that is welcoming for everyone. That's what I want to see. That's the kind of place I want to live. So thank you.
Thank you, Justin.
Hello, my name's Brandon Savage. My address is 3118 Amherst Avenue. I have been a resident of Manhattan for 6.5 years. I teach at K-State University. I'm the parent of 8 children. I'm a Christian. I want to start off by reading the purpose of this committee from the City of Manhattan's website. The purpose of the Special Alcohol Funds Advisory Committee is to solicit proposals for the use of the funds in the city's Special Alcohol Fund. The committee evaluates the proposals to ensure conformance to community objectives and helps to secure the coordination of the programs and services dealing with the abuse of alcohol and drugs that may now or in the future be provided by existing or new public, nonprofit, and private agencies. Also, the committee evaluates the quality of the programs provided through the assistance of these funds. If I've been keeping track correctly, we've heard public comments today from youth who have participated in this program, from volunteers that have been involved with this program, with parents whose children have been involved with this program, from teachers, from police officers, from judges that are all saying that this type of program will help reduce alcohol abuse and drug abuse. I don't see any reason here why this should be excluded. As a citizen, I feel like it's embarrassing that all of these individuals have had to come and try to plead for why they should get $10,000 when clearly they meet the requirements as part of this, what this committee is supposed to deliver. So I hope that if any member of the City Commission decides to vote against this, by whatever rationale you use to exclude this group, that you go back and look at the other $450,000 and apply that same logic to them as well. It is an embarrassment that this group is being discriminated for either political, social, or religious reasons when, from the city's website, it's very clear what they were applying for and they meet those criteria.
Did Brandon sign in? I didn't see you pause long enough. Sorry.
Cam Ward, 1929 Blue Stem Terrace.
Hi.
Wasn't going to talk about this issue. I think there's a lot that's already been said. What I did want to talk about was this process and what I think the city's role is in educating the community. There have been so many passionate comments made tonight, a lot of information to digest, and a lot of opinions. But as a citizen who has not paid attention to the alcohol fund, I find it, I guess, discouraging that folks come to this meeting to get the information that they need to make informed decisions. I know that the city posts a lot of information that's publicly available, but I think with this topic, a lot of the things that were addressed about True Colors that could apply to any of the organizations, that information isn't easy to find. It's not easy to find what the role of that fund is. It's not easy to find information about the committee and how they make their decisions. And we're here talking for an hour and a half about $10,000. And I think that if the city and your team that does social media and website provided more information, it would make this process more clear. I don't want to see anyone in our community feel like they're underserved. And I think that's why the city has worked with Social Service Board, with this committee and this fund, to make sure that needs that are not being met in other ways are met. And at the end of the day, if we have a set of criteria and an organization follows that criteria and there's money to be given out to that, it seems like it should be a clear process to me. And I don't know that the lack of clarity is because just of the divisiveness with the issue. I think the lack of clarity sometimes is with citizens that don't have the information. I didn't have information about this topic. I went to look at the Special Alcohol Fund Advisory Committee's minutes from their meetings. There haven't been any minutes posted online in their archives since February. And I think a lot of the answers to questions that many people have had tonight, many people watching at home might have, could have been answered in those minutes. Because I'm guessing the minutes from those meetings where they decided on which organizations they were going to fund talked about how this organization did or didn't meet those requirements. And so I would just urge the city, give your citizens more information than you think that they need, because I don't ever want to see folks getting upset with each other, getting divisive about one group of people and one organization when the goal here is to keep kids from drinking and using drugs. I also don't ever want this commission to be in a position where we have a public forum or meeting policy where you can have a member of that committee get in front of you and threaten you and tell you what you're going to do. City government shouldn't run that way. If everyone had the information that they needed, that they felt like they needed to digest, I don't think you would have people telling you what to do. I think you would have the freedom and ability to do what we elected you to do, which is take the information and see, does this organization fit the criteria? Are they doing something good for kids in our community? Is that the end of the questions? I just don't see how there needs to be more than that if we're getting the information we need. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak to us this evening?
Hi,
Hello.
I'm Barbara Murphy, 3123 College Avenue, Manhattan. You know, I had something prepared, but it's kind of, there's been so much discussion, and I'm wanting to, I'm just kind of listening, thinking that, okay, this is drug and alcohol, and we have one group that is advocating for funds, but I'm seeing, you know, this is a bit much larger population in Manhattan, Kansas for the teenagers, for youth, that I'm sure are all experiencing problems similar, you know, drug, alcohol, and of course we've heard how that leads into suicide. So, you know, I wonder if this needs to be reviewed, and if there isn't to be some sort of like a task force to address this. I don't want to over-governmentalize it, but if we were to give money to this, we need to consider all of Manhattan and all of the youth in Manhattan so that they could be benefited, they could benefit from this. I don't know, I'm not aware of any other agency in Manhattan that addresses alcohol problems with youth. You can inform me if there is one. But I think maybe this needs further review because this seems like a very serious problem, and it seems like one that's been overlooked, and perhaps you need to take another look. And whatever this funding is with, you know, the drug and alcohol, and we've got SSAB funding, and, you know, how does this all come together and fit together as a community and as a way to release those funds in a way that would be very, very beneficial. I know funds are very limited in Manhattan. I was on the SSAB board, and I experienced how some of these agencies are really operating on a shoestring, and each one of them could use a lot more money. But I know that these are different funds, if I'm understanding correctly. But we just need to take a look here and see if there's a way that more youth can be helped with this problem in alcohol abuse, if that's truly what this is about. Thank you.
Thank you, Bertha. Mm-hmm. Does anyone else wish to speak?
Come back and sign your name.
Oh, yep. Takes us all.
Hi, I'm Andrea Ockley. I live at 1821 Laramie Street. And I just wanted to say, True Colors opens their door and welcomes all children, irregardless of their sexual orientation. Any child who wants to come there is welcomed. And I wanted to clear that up. They are not exclusive for one group of
All
children.
right, that's good to know. Thank you. Does anyone else wish to come forward, please? I think we've hit pause. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. And now we'll move on with the approval of, are we ready? Well, let me close the public hearing. I kind of did, but not strong enough, I guess. Okay. The next step is commission discussion, or I think next step would be the first reading of the ordinance, but does the commission wish to have a discussion? Yes.
Yes, I've got 3 items that I wanted to cover, or actually make a proposal or motion. The first one has to do with the social services contracts. As you know, the request is a 28% increase, $125,000. And so I want to move that we lower that amount from 575 to 526, or be more specific, $574,694 to $526,000. I came up with the $526,000 by taking the last largest budget, which was in 2021, adding 10% to it, which is 10% over that number. It's 17% over the 2022 budget, which is, I think, a very generous increase to give to the group. Just think it's a little stretch too far to go the 28% or the 125,000. So again, move to lower the number on the social service contracts from 575 to 526.
Mayor, are we having a discussion, or are we voting already?
It was my intention to have a discussion. I think it warrants a discussion.
Let's see, how do we express to you our wishes on items like this? Is it appropriate for him to make a motion and vote on the motion? Should we just raise our hands and say, yes, I generally agree with that? What would you like us to do?
My preference would be a motion, so it's very clear at this stage of the budget process.
And then discuss.
You can discuss after that.
After the second?
Yep.
Motion and a second, and
Yes.
then discuss is protocol. We don't always do that.
So if that was a motion, I'll second it.
Okay.
I know, Wynn, you had talked one time about going back to the 2020, whatever, when it was 477. I think at one point that you wanted to kind of shoot for that number.
Yeah, John's got a little bit higher number than I had on there, but I can go with that. Because basically, you know, and I think a couple of speakers mentioned this, I think we as a commission did a pretty bad job this year of giving guidance to the boards. I think I said that in emails that I responded to folks. We didn't give them specific guidance. Maybe that's because we don't agree as a group either. But I'm convinced, you know, if you're going to tell the city staff we're going to have a flat mill levy, that you can't then have outside agencies come in with a 28% increase. Because this Social Services Advisory Board, that's general fund money. That's not fenced money. So then that comes out of Ron and Jason's hide, basically. And that's just too big of an increase. And I think, again, if I was giving guidance, which I can't as one individual commissioner, we need to take these boards, quit adding new agencies, and at least the Social Services Advisory Board, over the next 3 years, transition it to the Greater Manhattan Community Foundation and get it totally off the books. That wouldn't be the case for the Special Alcohol Board, because that's fenced funds. So that's where I've always been on that. I think I've said that numerous times in numerous ways over the past 10 years. So I support fully what John wants to do, because it is a reduction, but it's not an unreasonable reduction, and it still provides a 10% increase.
So I have a different opinion on that. I think about 10 years ago, maybe it was 12 years ago, both Commissioner Butler and Commissioner Mata were also on the city commission at that time. And at that time, they did decrease the social services budget dramatically, to the point where there was a petition, Save Our Social Services petition that went out. And we're seeing that again. So if we want to compare it, there was a lot happening then, the turmoil in our community because social services budget was cutting so dramatically that the community went out and had petition, I don't know, about 1,800 signatures. I don't remember how many signatures there were. But it brought out a lot of people where you think this is what, 8:30 meeting? That was a 2 a.m. meeting. That's how many people were in this room fighting for social services not to be cut. And I don't want us to go down that road, that line of thought again. I think when we think about social services and not adding new agencies is beyond my comprehension because there is evolution in our community where you see needs that need to be met, therefore a nonprofit comes into existence. I think the ask by the Social Services Advisory Board was well thought out. They did look at everything they were supposed to be looking at. There's a lot of footwork that goes into it, a lot of meetings with agencies and how they serve and who they serve and the need in our community. And if we start looking at, we were going to dedicate 1 mil. This year, 1 mil to social services would have been $643,000. We're not doing that, so we're even going much less than that. So I don't want us to think of this as a burden on our community, more so than it is our responsibility as city commissioners to take care of all of our individuals in our community. We don't seem to have a problem with infrastructure needs in our community, or chamber asks, or Kansas State University North Campus Corridor asks. Those are in the millions. But when we talk about our most vulnerable populations, the ones that may have a lack of voice, that are just volunteers, and maybe 1 or 2 directors or staff members that are working. So the ask is not so much when it comes to like 10,000 or 15,000 here and there compared to the budget that they have to work with and the time of hours the volunteers are putting in. So I'm not in favor of decreasing their ask because each year we should be doing 1 mil just dedicated to social services, in my opinion. And I don't want us to go back to where we have a community petitioning once again, just like they shouldn't be here right now for this. They shouldn't be petitioning for their vulnerable populations that they need. So I'm not an advocate for reducing the Social Services Advisory Board budget.
I neither am interested in lowering the Social Services Advisory Board amount. We have people in this community who have genuinely suffered during the pandemic. We have more homeless people in this community than we've ever had. And they're in different parts of the community now. And we have more agencies dealing with hunger besides Common Table and the Bread Basket. There's a lot of effort in the community to meet the needs of those people who are less well off than a lot of the people in this room. And it's hard for your retirement salaries or your current salaries, it's hard to put yourself in their place. But there are people after this pandemic that have not, I know we say that we're looking for employees all the time. There are still employees, there are still citizens who have not found employment that will have them maybe. And so there's no one answer to this. And I agree that the amount we're talking about, if $574,000 is something that this community can do out of the huge budget that we have. We can help those who are the least advantaged. And, you need to think about your own values when you're talking about this, whether you're Christian or Jewish or Baha'i, whatever. You have an obligation to help other people. And it's not just putting something in the blessing box. We do it. This is a way we all do it. Otherwise, it's just those people who think of others that do it. So I am supportive. I think that the social service, as the mayor, I can tell you, I think the Social Services Advisory Board works hard. and they spend a lot of time. They go out and interview each agency, and then they put their best thinking caps on and their best thinking. And that is not, if you'd like to be on that board, let me know. Because I'm always, the mayors are always looking for people to serve on boards. And this is one where your genuine caring will transform into action. So, thank you.
Since it is a $77,000 increase over last year, I'm fine with the 526. I'm just curious, John, if you had an idea of where you'd want to carve that $48,000 and change. In particular, do we send it back to Social Advisory Board for their recommendation, or just?
Yeah, I just say give it back to them and let them make the decision on how to, divvy it up.
And then bring it back to us again?
Yeah.
Probably.
He'd have to, because
I mean, you could just
why
rate
would we
it.
approve it
Even
not
yet.
having seen it?
Well, we would approve the total dollar amount, not necessarily specific allocations, but I'd kind of like to, I suppose I'd like to see the specific allocations too.
Yeah, they're meeting tomorrow, so they could bring that back.
Okay.
So you're supporting the reduction down to 526,000, okay. All right. Are you through with discussion?
A motion and a vote?
We have a motion and a second, and we have had discussion, and now,
Well, we can still have just
Sure,
a few more
absolutely.
comments, because I think, I want us to be cautious when we do this, because each year we're going to go reducing it more and more. I think that's, when we look at $189 million, but $189 million budget. And we're looking at our most vulnerable populations being decreased by, what, $30,000, $40,000.
We're actually given a double-digit increase.
It is over last year, but part of the problem with a $189 million budget is that people are paying more in water, more in sewer, more in stormwater fees. They're paying higher property taxes. They're going to have another little bit of sales tax, or the replacement of the sales tax at more places. So it's not like it's a $25 million increase over last year, because we're socking it to people left and right. And that's where we just have to at some point say, okay, $77,000 over last year. It's not $126,000 over last year, but it's a cut in the growth of it, which is still more than you started out with. But at some point, we just can't keep raising every fee across the board forever. It's without kind of trying to slow some areas down just a little bit.
No, I agree what you're saying. The same increases that the city is facing, so are the social service agencies.
So are the taxpayers.
Yeah, so are the taxpayers. But we are later on in this meeting going to approve an amendment to our 2022 budget with a sales tax revenue that has increased. So it's not like we don't have the funds to serve the needs in the community.
okay. Having concluded the commission's conversation or discussion, Brenda Wolf, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Butler.
Yes.
Commissioner Motta.
Yes.
Mayor Morse.
No.
Commissioner Hattasol.
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy.
No.
Motion carries 3-2.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my next one is move to remove True Colors 10,000 funding from the special alcohol fund contracts. The organization does not have an operational track record. I'll actually be proposing as part of our new board guidance that a minimum of a year operational track record be a prerequisite for any funding for special alcohol or social service funding. Secondly, True Colors has stated services including breast binding equipment, band, book club, and comprehensive sexual education and resources for children as young as 11. This raises parental notification approval concerns, and again, need the operational track record to really evaluate the situation. Lastly, received an email from the owner of Curtis Baker's Therapeutics, which I believe all of us received. In that email, she confirmed providing of services such as referral and letters of recommendation for such experimental treatments as puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and body modification surgeries. I am not for tax dollars supporting such services on children. Again, need a track record to fully evaluate.
Is there a second?
I'll second it so we can discuss it.
Okay.
I am not, again, in favor of this, and here's why. We have 17 agencies that were approved by the Special Alcohol Funds Advisory Board, 17. Be Able is fairly new, I think maybe 2 years. I don't know their track record either. There's a lot of organizations such as Big Brothers and Big Sisters or Boys and Girls Clubs, which also have a corporate impact on them and have larger budgets. Pawnee Mental Health has a larger budget. USD 383 also has a larger budget. But all of these organizations deal with different demographics in our community. And as far as the alcohol budget itself, it is for prevention, education, or treatment of alcohol and drug addiction. And when you put $10,000 on it and want to quantify if you've saved a life, it's hard to do, mainly because they're surviving. If they're surviving, how do you quantify your success rate? For example, as a first grade teacher, I'm going to consider my students being successful by if they go on to second grade, third grade, and fourth grade. Back, to me, that's not failure either, because they're still being taught and they're still learning. So how would I quantify being a successful teacher? How would an organization such as True Colors, which is dealing with a different demographic that feels it's a safe space where they didn't have it before? And we just heard lots of stories where people were abusing alcohol or drugs or contemplating suicide. If that's going to be the case where that is decreasing, you need to keep track of that data in a different manner. And only high school counselors and teachers can be able to do that, also with their parents. And we've heard all of those stories right now. I think all the stories that were shared today should have a huge impact on how we think about not only the LGBT community, but of the City of Manhattan. I remember 6 years ago when we did pass it, then we had more of a crowd than this. And again, that was a 2 a.m. meeting. You know, that's how those conversations happened. K-State being recognized an outstanding university for the LGBT community didn't happen by itself. People wanting to move back to Manhattan doesn't happen by itself. So a new organization is formed to address some concerns, which will only become larger and better and more inclusive as we move forward. I'm not sure these 5 commissioners have dived into each of the other 16 organizations as we have for True Colors. I'm not sure we know the board of directors on all of those other organizations. I'm not sure we know everything that they do, their track record of success. I'm not sure we know all of that. But one thing we do know is we trust our advisory board to do all of that homework for us and present us with their recommendations. I think this True Colors needs to be given a chance. I've seen right in front of us right now how many have showed up to speak to it. 6 years ago, or however many years ago, there was an individual here who said, who came here at 10 o'clock p.m. and said, I want you to pass the non-discrimination ordinance. And he was like a high school kid or dropout or was from foster care. And he said he knew 20 people that had committed suicide because of being in the LGBTQ community, which was not accepting, and oftentimes it's their own family. So I think for all of those reasons, and the other 16 organizations, plus True Colors, should be included in being funded as recommended by the Special Alcohol Advisory Board.
That same paragraph that Carla was reading from, the sentence right before that said, monies in such special funds shall be under the direction and control of the governing body of the city. So we have that ability, correct, Katie? We have the final say.
The statute that you're referencing says that it's the discretion of the governing body. The commission has adopted a resolution related to the special alcohol. Let me pull it up here. I was anticipating this question.
I tried to Google the city thing and I couldn't find it
Excuse
either.
me. So the statute does read, as you indicated, Commissioner, it says that the monies are in the direction and control of the governing body of the city. That's the statute. The commission has, since 1994, had language in the resolution that's kind of wishy-washy, I guess. Let me read it to you. Again, this is old language. It's been re-adopted through subsequent changes to the resolution relating to this committee. And it says, and that language says that it's section 6. It says that the committee's, I'm paraphrasing this and I'll let you know when I'm quoting, that the committee's reviewing proposals, that the law allows expenditure of these funds for drug abuse programs as well as alcohol abuse. And then it says, in reviewing said proposals, the committee shall keep in mind that the use of said funds shall be distributed at the committee's discretion, keeping in mind the governing body's wish that the majority will be used to reach young people. Again, this is old language. I don't think that it's necessarily, I mean, we have over the years, our practice has been that the commission approves the allocations as part of the budget. But I just wanted to share that that language has been part of the resolution for a long time. So there has been a practice of that committee doing the distributions, and then ultimately the commission makes the final call.
Okay, so if that's old language, there's nothing really newer that replaces that, or I don't understand what
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
This is the city commission in 2014 adopted a resolution related to how this committee would function. This language that I just cited has been in every resolution that a committee or a commission has adopted since 1994. So when I say it's old language, I'm saying that the heritage language has been re-adopted every time that the commission has amended the goal of this committee. It doesn't state that the commission doesn't have the authority to allocate the funds. I'm just letting you know that that statement is in the governing body's resolution that has been in effect since 1994. This language has been in effect since 94. And I think that's why there's this language. Some people say it's in the committee's discretion because our governing body has had this resolution that says that.
Okay, so basically, are you trying to say that the city resolution gave the board members guidance that said they had 100% control over those funds?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm telling you that the statute says that it's in the governing body's control and discretion, but the governing body, prior governing bodies have said exactly what I said, which is that the funds shall be distributed at the committee's discretion, keeping in mind the governing body's wish that the majority will be used to reach young people.
Okay, well, to me, I can understand why Mr. Steele said that he thought, he had full authority to distribute the money, because if I was reading that, I would think that too, and there wasn't any guidance given by the commission. So, yeah, because a couple people made a legal case there saying, we're gonna get sued if we don't approve this because of what's in that resolution. That's important to me, because, a comment was made on process, and that I think is a big deal. I don't like to get tripped up on these things. And I can't remember, doing anything with adjusting that in previous years, except we did try to align, as John Ball mentioned, special alcohol funds with social service advisory boards, because a number of agencies get money from both. And I know once or twice we tinkered around and asked the boards to adjust the numbers so that we could make the money go a bit farther.
I was going to ask if in the past we have given the board a target, and I don't recall us doing that deliberately every year.
We did with John Ball when he was in charge.
Yeah, we estimate, here's what we think it'll bring in, that kind of thing, but it's not.
And of course, the other problem with the
charged.
special alcohol board, they can put their allocations there, but if the tax dollars don't arrive, it doesn't get distributed.
Yeah.
So what happens is, it's really a target, and if enough liquor sales take place, then all the money will be distributed. But I think in some of the other years, there wasn't enough to actually fill what they projected.
With regard to the removing true colors, I want to say that I'm proud of Manhattan. I think we are a kind of community that Scorpion wants to come to, that NBAF selected. Those are good things, that this national ratings we continue to get one after another with best this and best that. The Chamber of Commerce keeps track of all those. And that's what we want, is that kind of recognition on a national scale. We know that Kansas gets hit a lot with more negative things, but this is important for us. We have a good record with our non-discrimination ordinance, with those the national ratings. I think that this community is seen positively. To me, this is $10,000 out of, what did you say, 189 million. And I am supporting it. I think that it's something, it's a small niche that matters, that we send a message. And the message is that we are welcoming in this community. We want people to come here and start their business, go to school, whatever. But this is an important vote for us, and one that is worthy. And so I support it.
Yeah, maybe just add to comment back on Usha said on that evaluation process. If you look at the application, there's 4 questions, 2 for each year, about the number of people serviced within the county and within the city. All those numbers are zeros because there was no track record. One of the things you find out by having a year's track record, does the organization still exist after a year? Are the comments that are kudos today still there? Are there complaints? That's the advantage you get by having an organization have a track record. There's the question on the application going back 2 years, actually wanting to get that track record. I think to go without it because of some other ideas, I just don't buy. I think there's some questions here. I think that having that track record will provide us some answers.
I'd like to point out also that a year ago, we rejected Be Able because their articles of incorporation were not complete. They had not met the city's standards for funding. And so this year, however, they had everything in order and they were eligible to be funded. True Colors came eligible. They're qualified for this funding. There's no reason to reject them.
And Mayor, I want to point out that the advisory board didn't recommend Be Able at that time. It wasn't that we took them off a list.
No.
Yeah.
They said because
Right.
they did not
Right.
meet.
But they did not give that recommendation either. At this point, there is a recommendation for approval.
For approval, that's true.
Well, all of this discussion tonight leads us to the question, is like, what are we getting for our $180,000 we're spending with the school district? Apparently, they're not really addressing anything to do hardly with teen suicide prevention. And when I was on the Social Service Advisory Board, like everybody apparently, it's a matter of you see what they did last year, tweak things a little bit, 10% one way or another, add a 5% here or there, and otherwise you pretty much just keep funding people at the same more or less percentage that we've had before. And I would think this would probably be a good time over the next few months to try to sort of reevaluate exactly what are we getting. If we're already giving the school $180,000, can they not do something to help the LGBTQ kids up there? Because I know the school board is terrifically supportive of that idea. And so I am just really curious as to how come we're not really making any kind of a dent? You made a good point. We're spending almost $500,000, and it doesn't seem like we're accomplishing anything other than that we can't measure the ones that don't kill themselves. But I would like us to kind of reevaluate what we're getting there. I don't think the $10,000 is going to make or break True Colors. They've obviously got some good community support. If we vote it down tonight, tomorrow would be a great day to send out a fundraising letter, and you'd probably generate $30,000-40,000 because now that people know that they sort of exist. But I think there's enough in the community enough people in the community that just aren't comfortable yet with this idea. Come back next year, and there's a pretty good chance that you'll get 3 commissioners to vote next year.
I don't agree with that statement. I think there was a lot of community support. When you said there's not enough or something.
There's a quiet majority of people that are sitting at home tonight going, yay for the 5 people brave enough to venture out tonight and vote and talk about not supporting it. That's the thing, is like, it's easy to, that's the whole problem with public comment, is that the people that are really excited show up, and the people that are kind of excited but against it don't show up because they're going to be so terrifically outnumbered, and they know that. And so you think it's scary for some of these people to get up and talk. It's really scary for these other guys to get up and say, I don't support it, because of the fact that you're going to so easily be pointed out as homophobic, trans, whatever, everything, simply because of the atmosphere, the outnumbering of everybody here tonight. But I think I would think 25-30% of the people in the community do not want us to vote to support the True Colors allocation tonight. And I suspect that you may never run into them. I'll probably run into them simply because the community is just divided enough that there's your people. That's not it. There's a group in the community here, and there's a group in the community over here, and there's just some things that we're not going to agree about. And so I think this is going to be one of them.
I will say, I think we run more in the same circle than you think. I think, all of the emails we got today came to all of us. And we represent everybody. A vote is not a popularity contest. There are many votes we do here where people don't like. Scorpion is one of them. People are divided even on Scorpion, they're divided on NBAF, they're divided on a lot of things. So it's never about, like I said, the popular vote in the community. We get all the information, we read all the documents, we meet with everybody, and we try to do what's in the best interest of the community today and in the future. And in the future is the children. And I think that's who we need to look at. When you speak about USD 383, we don't know that they're not meeting the LGBTQ community demographic network, but we also have Boys and Girls Club, which meets at, Anthony and Eisenhower now. So there's this group that needs a safe place to go after school is done. There's a group that needs to go where there's like-minded people and they can be themselves. And I think that's what this environment provides. And to say, we won't provide it this year, with this you can get some more fundraising money, that's convoluted in a way. If you think, now you can send out letters and get more money, instead of saying the community and the government support us, could you fund us now? That's usually what the match money is, that the city has contributed $10,000 and then they apply for grants for more money because there's an investment from the city side as well. So I think that's how it branches out, not just from fundraising. Fundraising is going to happen anyway, with or without this. That's going to happen anyway. But the community match is very different, and the government match is very different, and the populations are very different. There could be, Boys and Girls Club and all of these other ones might also be taking care of the demographic that True Colors takes care of. Except in True Colors, they can be themselves and not wonder, will it be okay? And that fear factor is gone or is alleviated. And I think that's $10,000 would be a good investment in our children and in our community and in the messaging for Manhattan, Kansas. Okay, we are prepared to vote at this point.
I was gonna make just one comment. I kept track of, lots of emails, tried to answer them, and irritated some people in the way I worded the answer, which was unfortunate. But, as I kept a tally, and I might have missed one, I probably got 94 emails in favor of it, and one of those, as the young lady mentioned, had like 80 signatures on it. So you could add to that, those were the Manhattan High School alumni. And I got about 64 from people that are adamantly opposed to funding True Colors. And none of them, are here speaking tonight. And what troubled me about the whole thing, it took me a couple weeks to answer some of the emails, because I just wasn't sure which way to come down on this. The thing that bothered me was the original briefing. Okay, and there's two things that disturbed me there. One, again, lack of guidance from the commission on which direction we should be going. And of course, that resolution that Katie read, puts that in one perspective. But if you look at the briefing we received, I think it was 28th June, it was completely erroneous. And that is what upset a lot of the people that are against funding True Colors. Because we were given a slide that basically said, oh, it's an equal opportunity organization. It's not what it is at all. And then when you go to the website, and there's some other confusion there, there's a Facebook page, there's a website, I believe there's a National True Colors site also. And you read what's on there, and it's not the information that I got in the emails. So that's I think, where part of the population is conflicted, because they don't believe, they've read what was on some of these websites, and they believe something else is going on there. Then it's just a case of we're gonna, make a boys and girls club for a certain segment of the society to go to. And Mark and I probably got a lot of pressure from folks, sending us emails saying, hey, this is crazy. We don't want to do it. And they use the track record thing as one of the reasons for that. And that may be, a valid argument, though again, I think a couple of good cases were made here on, the lack of guidance and the fact that, maybe that's what we should do next year, is say you can't add any new agencies unless they've been in existence for a year. That would be clear. But that wasn't done this time. So, I'm really disappointed in the way this thing was branded, and I shared that, I think, with Jamie. That initial briefing was horrible, and it should have laid this out, and then it would have probably not caused a group of the population to get upset about it.
Okay, we're ready for the city clerk to call the roll for whether John has moved to remove True Colors from the the special alcohol allocation. Brenda?
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse,
No.
Commissioner Hattasol,
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy,
No.
Commissioner Butler.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with a, yes vote for the reasons I gave, earlier in my email.
Motion carries 3-2.
Okay, here's my last one. Flint Hills Area Transportation Agency asked for close to a 40% increase, 50,000 over the 22 budget. I propose we lower the 179,884 to 143,000, which the 143,000 again is a 10% increase over the prior year.
Can you repeat that, John? We couldn't hear hardly any of it.
Okay, move that we lower the Flint Hills Area Transportation Agency from 179,884 to 143,000. The 143,000 is a 10% increase over the prior year and over any top funding of previous years. So again, another double-digit increase.
Can I second?
We have a motion and a second to reduce the ATA allocation from, I don't know how much that, I haven't added it, 179,884 to 143,000. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Well, and the thing was, when the proposal, I think, was brought forward, gas was about $1 a gallon higher. So in theory, if it stays where it's at, that increase that we are still giving will hopefully make that difference up, and hopefully that's the only reason, that's a reason that I think I will be okay with a lesser amount.
This is, Adibus provides economic development in our community by taking employees, that may or may not have a car or don't have a mode of transportation throughout our community. But if this is the direction we're going to go, I'm going to be voting no on the budget this evening.
Okay. Is there are there any other thoughts? I support the Area Transportation Authority, the bus service that they provide to this community. I think it is so valuable. I remember for years we did not have bus service here, and how difficult it was for low-income people to get to work, get to the store. And this, since we have, and I don't know how many years have you been in operation? Ann? 76. Well, I must have lived here before that. I did. But I just know how valuable it is. And I would be just really disappointed if this commission reduces the ATA. I think it's an important function that we provide to this, and it's an important service that we help to provide. We are only one of the partners in the ATA funding, and it's important that we do our part. So I'll be supporting the full $179,884.
Yeah, I think, it is a 10% increase, and I support ATA. I like them trying to help us with the shuttle service, and maybe we'll do some more things with that. But still, the general philosophy for the city's got to be, we can't just, ask the city to have a flat mill levy, reduce everything in the city, and then tell all the outside agencies they can have more money. That's just a huge disconnect for me. Everybody's got to be in the same leaky rowboat, and that's why I want to see it reduced.
I think this city has never had as much discretionary money, and they are making choices to spend that money on infrastructure, concrete and buildings, and not putting it into the services for the lower income people. It's a deliberate choice, and I want to make that point as we vote on this. It matters who you elect and what happens with these proposals. So if there's not further discussion, I would ask.
I would comment on that. I mean, part of my logic on all this is all the people that constantly send us complaints about the amount of taxes they're paying. And that's not just property tax, also sales tax. They say they got to leave town, they can't handle it. So we've got to have a mindset that basically takes a real hard look on what we're spending it on and how we're spending it. And as I've always said, lean management, cut some of it out of there. Make people make some differences.
The lean management you're speaking of is from the ones that are not even being able to afford a car. The ones that are having to go to social service agencies to meet the needs of survival. That's where these cuts are going.
Again, I just want to interject. We're saying they're cuts. They're double-digit increases, what we're doing.
Because there's a need.
I think we have probably exhausted this, but it matters what we do here. So, City Clerk Brenda, would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Morse.
No.
Commissioner Hattasol?
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy?
No.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Motta?
Yes.
Motion carries 3-2.
Okay. We have resolution on the 2023, well, we have those items. Are there other issues in the budget
Yeah, I want
for
to bring up.
2023 that
I want
need
to bring
be
up
brought
one,
up?
and I'm not going to make a motion tonight because I'll have to use a line that Mayor Reddy uses all the time. I don't have enough information for one time to make a decision. And the city staff gave me a report on all these various organizations that we're members of. And the total amount that was budgeted for 2022 was $1,270, which to me is astronomical. But this report doesn't tell me what was budgeted for 2023. And I think the number's too high, and it tends to fluctuate, because this has like 4 years in the report. And for some years, just under the airport department, we paid dues to the Abilene Chamber of Commerce, the Junction City Chamber of Commerce, the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce, and the Wamego Chamber of Commerce, which makes no sense to me. You know, why are we joining all these Chamber of Commerce? I guess it was because, we were a regional airport, and we thought maybe that would cause them to help us with funding, but the airport's municipal airport when it comes to funding. And so I want this thing, reviewed. And I think the only ones there that I think staff said maybe they could get rid of was the National League of Cities, if we stayed in the Kansas League of Cities. So I think we get the information there. And that may be one, but what I'd like is to get, before the next final budget vote, a better list of exactly what is this thing and what are we planning on spending it on. And my recommendation would be, since you budgeted each year huge amounts, but you only spent $126,000, that the total budget for this should be $126,000, not $166,000. And I would think that, the various departments were, that is funding this could go through here and say, okay, we can strike that. And I understand some are essential for, accreditation and things of that nature. But this is what I mean by lean management. There's some terrible fluff in this thing, and it needs to go. And we can talk to specifics in 2 weeks. I won't take up your time tonight because, as I said, don't quite have enough information. Just got part of it.
This has been your pet peeve for years, so.
Yes, it is.
Coming out again,
And
coming out again this
Commissioner
year.
Reddy made a good point. It's time to vote on it. I think you said that a couple meetings ago. Because it's not going anywhere unless I push it. So I expect to see a better report in a week or so that I can actually look at it and say, here we go. And maybe staff will cut enough out of it to be, it'll be fine. And we can just vote on that. If not, we may have to get in the nitty-gritty of which specific thing do we want to line through. Thank you.
Who wants to speak next to that?
Let me just make a motion.
Well,
Oh, on the budget, yeah.
sure. You can speak to the issue Wynn has raised also.
Well, I think even if we addressed all of Commissioner Butler's concerns, he's still going to vote no on the budget.
He always does, okay. All right. So what's next? We, are we ready for a motion to approve the entire budget, having just talked about a few of these smaller items?
Yeah, the motion we'd be voting on would be the budget minus the things that John brought forth that we just deducted from it. Correct? Yes, and then it would have nothing to do with what I just brought up, because we can't really address that for 2 weeks. So there may be a further amendment at the second reading to lower it by the amount I mentioned here, but we don't have enough data to do that right now.
Okay. I move that we approve first reading of the ordinance adopting the 2023 city budget minus the items that we were just voting on and passed.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and 2 seconds in this case. Is there further discussion before we move to a vote? Okay, City Clerk, Brenda, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Hattasol,
Yes.
Commissioner Reddy,
No.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse.
No.
Motion carries 3-2.
Next, we will hold a public hearing on the proposed amended 2022 city budget. And Rena, you're going to explain why that is necessary, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Again, good evening, Commissioner, Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight we have a public hearing, and I will do the presentation regarding the 2022 city budget amendments. Background, KSA 792929A allows cities to amend one or more budgeted funds prior to the end of the budget year. We have 5 funds that we are proposing to amend. We followed procedure and provided the notification to the Mercury and posted on the city's website on August 25th. The 5 budgeted funds are the Fire Pension KP&F Fund, Sales Tax, Special Sunset Zoo, Aggieville Business Improvement District, Downtown Business Improvement District. The Fire Pension KP&F Fund, the 2022 budget was $1,181,000. We are proposing a $200,000 increase to $1,381,000. This will be used to pay for forecasted expenditures. At this point in the year, we believe that they will exceed the approved 2022 budget authority. Sales tax fund, the adopted budget was $5.87 million. The amended budget is $6.72 million. 2022 year-to-date sales tax revenue is trending higher than in 2021, 20, and 19. And then those items are listed below based on year-to-date. 2022 is at 66.5% of budget. The 2022 year-to-date use tax revenue has exceeded budget projections as well. And so we did do a budget amendment in 2021 and budgeted upwards after the year-to-date calculation. So similar to last year, we amended sales tax fund. The Special Sunset Zoo, the budget for 2022 was adopted at $534,500. We are requesting to amend it at $750,000, and this is due to receiving grants and wanting to disperse those funds through 2022. We received the Small Business Administration Shutter Venue Grant, as well as Child Care Awareness Grant of Kansas. The Aggieville Business Improvement District, they had a budget of $71,500 in 2022. They're amending to $76,500. This is due to ABID collecting more fees than what was budgeted. And so the Business Association requested an amendment to the budget to be able to receive what was collected for the year, and the board approved that request and to be submitted to the City Commission. To date, their their collections are at $76,576, and they have outstanding payments that are due, and so that will probably exceed that amount as well. And then the Downtown Business Improvement District is the same reason, adopted a 2022 budget at $86,500 and amended to $91,500. Again, they had collected more than what was budgeted. Downtown Manhattan Inc. requested an amendment to the budget to be able to receive what was collected for the year. And then they submitted that to the Downtown Business Improvement District Advisory Board. They approved that request, and then it's being submitted to you tonight. To date, their collections are at $91,160.91. That's the end of this presentation. I stand for any questions.
So basically, all these amendments, the increases, it has nothing to do with property tax. It's all grants and sales tax receipts.
Correct.
Okay, just so everybody understands that. It's not like we're going back and changing the mill levy for that year. It's just, if you collect more than you anticipated, then I guess you can spend it.
Yeah, if we don't, then we would have to carry it over for the next year and then amend the budget in 2023.
But this is a total of $9 million, right?
In terms of the amended budget?
Yes.
Yes.
So how do we see what the $9 million will be spent on? I mean, only on these items.
So Fire Pension KP&F is only used.
Yeah, don't go through them again, you're right. All of the ones you just went through.
Yes, ma'am, but I can explain to you what they would be used for.
Well, I guess the question is, how did we decide that these were the worthy ones and there were other
because the collections
projects?
So these are special revenue funds. The funds that are received in those funds are to be used for those intended purposes.
So they're targeted?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
so
okay.
So Fire Pension, KP&F, they receive sales tax transfer. And so We received more sales tax money. And then
But
we,
sales tax isn't, right? Is not targeted,
yes, the sales tax fund is.
can only be used for what?
Sales tax fund is transferred into the general fund.
Yeah.
Fire pension fund, and a few other funds.
Okay.
So
And the general fund is limited to those specific areas?
in terms of,
What it can be spent for? That's what you're saying?
no, these are special revenue funds that we are intending to.
What is the special sales tax? What,
So we receive the city's portion of the sales tax.
right, I
Part
know.
of it goes into the general fund, and the other part goes into the sales tax fund, and then it's distributed out to fire pension as well as bond and interest, and then some to general fund as well.
And those are the only areas,
Yes, there's a couple of other ones, and I don't have those off the top of my head.
but they're not included in this
Not to, they don't need
additional
to.
award to the tune of 9 million.
Well, it's not, we're not spending 9 million more dollars, right? And here, all we're saying is that we collected $900,000 more than we anticipated, so sooner or later, we got to adjust the budget. This isn't an expense line item increase, it's,
It is an expense line item increase.
but based on more collections.
Yes,
Okay, so it's.
That we can spend
yes.
up to $9 million, whatever. I just wanted a better explanation. Okay, thank you.
Are
So
there-
what,
Yes,
sorry, were-
And I do understand that Aggieville and downtown, if this is their BID money,
Yes,
that they generated it, they can, we would give it back to them. I was just questioning the sales tax part. Thank you.
so the sales, because there's the Sunset Zoo, Aggieville, and all of those, so the mayor was asking about the sales tax, and I had a similar question. If we were to vote yes on all of those except for the sales tax one, would that roll over into 2023 budget
yes, ma'am, and then we would need to amend the 2023 budget
with the $6 million in it?
with the difference between the two amounts. It's the difference. Is
Okay,
what is
that was
being
the
added to
$3
the
million.
budget.
We just adopted it.
So recall the sales tax fund exists specifically to keep property taxes down. So a portion of the sales tax proceeds go to reduce property taxes. So it's to our benefit, whether you do it now or whether you do it later, it's gonna push to reserves, or you're going to amend it next year with more cash on hand. This gives you the spending authority through the end of the year to expend more into those property tax funds that has to go to.
So do we have to do the entirety of it? For example, can we do 1 million for this year and the rest to next year and reduce the mill levy even more, or reduce our property taxes more, is what I'm trying to ask.
So, we're not recommending that you utilize these funds now necessarily to reduce those taxes. If we have additional reserves, because there could be additional revenue that comes that will amend it again. And a lot of times we wait till later in the year to do this when we know that there's additional revenue. So, we would not recommend we do.
There'll be more revenue the last.
Right, I know that's not what's
4
being
months.
recommended, but my question is, can that be done?
It would be more of in my mind, it would be more of an issue for the next year's budget, for the '24 budget, if there's still excess revenue in that fund. That could further reduce the mill levies in those specific funds.
Because if we're piddling around with 10,000 here and 10,000 there, it just seems to make sense that if we can take that amount of money and put it into these organizations for next year from the sales tax revenue that we have, that would kind of balance it out and still come out on top. Wouldn't the sales tax revenue go into the general fund?
Some of it goes to the general fund. But then it goes to the other special revenue funds, and I'm going to provide you what the other special revenue funds are that it goes to.
Typically, amending budgets is a realization that revenues are exceeding what you anticipated. Amending the budget then gives you the authority to move that money around. If you don't amend the budget, you don't have to. We're just trying to provide enough flexibility to go ahead and fund what we need to fund this year because the revenues are there. Your conversation is moving into a cash balance conversation. It's not as if we're going to go spend money in addition on discretionary items. These are things that have to be funded. Either you amend the budget and fund them, or we'll eat into the cash balance and fund them. But they will be funded. The amendment just gives you the authority to do it with the revenues you're going to receive this year. You want to have a cash balance discussion about where we need to land on an annual basis. That's that dashboard that we're trying to deliver to you all to give you more frequent updates as to where you are with a cash balance in the general fund. That's where you can have that discussion, Commissioner, about where you want to land, what you want to spend that money on. We would prefer to have a $9.5 million budget, a $9.5 million cash balance in our general fund. That's where we would prefer to be. We are there. We're over 11 million. We're going to drop by 2 million come to the end of the year. We do it historically, and we will do it again. We will be very close to 9.5 million at the end of the year, which is where we targeted. So there's really not a lot of flexibility in the cash balance discussion. This isn't a source to try to build that up.
I'm just considering it because our sales tax revenue has been doing so well that if, for example, let's look at the Aggieville Improvement District. We adopted $71,500, but because they, received all their fees from the BID, it's $76,500. So they may have budgeted for the $71,000, but now they have like $4,000 or $5,000 more,
Yep.
which they can use, which they may not have budgeted for.
Correct.
So when I see sales tax and we're over sales tax, we're probably meeting our budgetary needs, but now we have more that we can use for next year.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
And that's why you have to watch where your expenditures come in through the end of the year. That's why I moved into that cash balance conversation. Because again, you can take a snapshot today and say we have money, and then watch your balances move like they do every year from September to December by over $2 million. That dashboard shows you that. It shows you what the cash balance was in August of 2019, 2020, and 2021. And it shows a reduction of $2 million by the end of the year because you simply spend more than you bring in the last 4 months of the year. Historically, we always do it.
But it's 3 million, right?
You're separating out a piece, and it's not factoring into what we're attempting to do. The amendment is allowing you to spend it on expenditures you're going to realize this year. It's not about a cash balance conversation. It really isn't. The amendments are going to allow you to do things where you're not eating into a cash balance in a budgeted year because you don't have the authority to spend it in that fund. We're adjusting that tonight. So you can spend it within that fund. If you want to talk about cash balances, it's truly after the 13th month. It's after January is realized, all expenses for 2022. Then we can talk about how much money we have left over.
I'm just looking at a way to fund these other ones if we've done so well in our sales tax rate.
And amending a budget is not the way to do that, Commissioner. That it is not the topic or the action to suggest we take revenue and put it somewhere else. If you want to do that, it should really be more about a cash balance projection and where you want to end the year in that fund. And we have, go ahead.
Sorry, I do understand the mayor's question then, where would this money go?
And Rena highlighted every one of those areas that would be adjusted.
And I can, again, try to explain that to you all. So sales tax fund, sales tax transfers money to the general fund, employee benefit fund, fire pension fund, as well as general improvement. 3 of those funds are also property tax levy related funds. They all have been reduced in terms of the property tax mill levy. So the extra money that comes in for sales tax would go into those particular funds. In addition, regarding employee fire pension fund, if we do not increase the transfer from sales tax fund to fire pension, then it will come from the general fund. And that's what we normally do to fund employee benefit fund, this fund, as well as RCPD or the library if they had shortages.
The other thing I would just point out is we don't have a delinquency in our mill levy for the city-supported side, nor do we have it in the RCPD side. And last year, we wrote checks because there was a delinquency, and we didn't budget for a delinquency because there wasn't an appetite to do that. So this money becomes available to help us in the sense we have to write a check to make everybody whole.
So I just wanted to also just briefly summarize how much the total increase is. So the 2022 budget information that was presented was $7.74 million. It's increased to $9 million, and the difference is $1.275 million.
We already had a public hearing.
Not for this.
Not for this. Thought we had them for everything. Okay. So we will conduct now that we have, conduct a public hearing on the proposed amended 2022 city budget. And so at this point, I would open the public hearing for comments on the amended 2022 budget. You've just heard the explanation 3 times because we kept asking questions. So does anyone have questions? Would you like to speak at the podium? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and ask the commission if there's further discussion or if we're ready for the first reading.
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve first reading of an ordinance amending the 2022 city budget for the Fire Pension KP&F Fund, Sales Tax Fund, Special Sunset Zoo Fund, Aggieville Business Improvement District Fund, and Downtown Business Improvement District Fund.
Second.
Is there further discussion from the commission? Seeing none, I will ask the city clerk to call the roll.
Commissioner Reddy,
Yes.
Commissioner Butler,
Yes.
Commissioner Motta,
Yes.
Mayor Morse,
Yes.
Commissioner Hattasol.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, the last item. Yes, we sure could.
Are we supposed to close at 10 o'clock tonight?
10:30, legislative meeting.
11.
11, we moved it. Darn. Okay, we have a 5-minute break at the commission's request. Thank you. We're reconvening. The time is 7:38. I think we went over 5 minutes. The next 9:38, pardon me. The next item on the agenda is to consider an ordinance rezoning the MCM Industrial Park from Pottawatomie County A1 to CH and CH to City of Manhattan ICS. And Stephanie Peterson will explain what all those, we know, but we'll explain to the public what those abbreviations mean.
Good evening, Stephanie Peterson, Director of Community Development. The mayor just said what the item is that we have before you this evening. The A1 is Pottawatomie County's agricultural zoning district. CH is highway commercial, and the proposed rezoning is to make that City of Manhattan ICS, which is Industrial Commercial Services District. This is the general location of the property to be rezoned. It's at the northeast corner of US 24 and Excel Road. It's approximately 50.5 acres. The current surrounding zoning districts, most of these are Pottawatomie County. All the white you see here, that's the agricultural. The CH is their highway commercial. And the R3 that you have up here, that's a higher density residential. It is separated by a wooded area, and there's some grade differential. So that wasn't an issue that the planning board saw. When we look at the comprehensive plan and the future land use map, this rezoning to ICS is consistent with the service commercial that was anticipated in this area. And the conclusions that staff had made as far as the rezoning of this, it is suitable for the highway adjacent uses that are surrounding the tract of land. The public facilities are adequate to serve this site. It does conform, as I showed, with the future land use map and the comprehensive plan, and it would be compatible with the neighboring uses and with any future zoning that is per the comprehensive plan. With that, the requested action before you is to approve the first reading of the ordinance to rezone the MCM Industrial Park from Pottawatomie County A1 Agricultural and CH Highway Commercial to City of Manhattan ICS Industrial Commercial Service based on the findings in the staff report and the recommendation by the Planning Board. And with that, I will stand for any questions that you have.
Well, I'm certain that the planning board reviewed it thoroughly, and their recommendation is full support.
Yes, correct.
Right. And so, are there questions from the commission?
No, I just wanted to clarify, you may have said it, and I just didn't connect, but people have sent me, emails wondering about the Scorpion thing. Well, this is all about the Scorpion Economic Development project, and this is the next step. Have to get it rezoned, so then next step after that is what, doing the platting?
Correct.
And those kind of things. So this has been in the works for a while, so it should be pretty simple.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. You're welcome to stay close. I'd like to open the public hearing to consider this item, a rezoning. Does anyone wish to come forward to discuss pros or cons? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Commissioners may ask questions at this point and discuss items. If there are none, a motion.
I move that we approve first reading of an ordinance rezoning the MCM Industrial Park from A1 Agriculture and CH Highway Commercial to City of Manhattan ICS Industrial Commercial Service based on the findings of the staff report and recommendation by the Manhattan Urban Area Planning Board.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other criteria we need to examine when we have a quasi-judicial item? No? Okay. With no further discussion from the commission, City Clerk Brenda, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Commissioner Motta?
Yes.
Mayor Morse?
Yes.
Commissioner Hattasol?
Yes?
Commissioner Reddy?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and at this point, is there, we're through with the agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. City Clerk Brenda Wolf, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Motta?
Yes.
Mayor Morse?
Yes.
Commissioner Hattasol?
Yes?
Commissioner Reddy?
Yes.
Commissioner Butler?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
We are adjourned.